Good morning and welcome back. Yesterday we discussed 9 items on the agenda and made solid progress. Thank you for your continued cooperation. Today we will continue with the proposed grouping of items as we work towards the end of our agenda. We shall now consider item 21, health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. The relevant report is contained in document EB 158/25. The Board is invited to note the report and to provide guidance on the question contained in paragraph 22. Further, the Board has before it 2 conference papers. The first contains a draft resolution recommending a resolution to the Health Assembly as contained in document EB 158/conf/4 on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. The financial and administrative implications are contained in document EB 158/conf/4-1. The second contains the proposed amendment by Israel to the draft resolution as contained in document EB 158/conf/11. As usual, we will call first on members of the Executive Board. I would ask that other delegations not on the Executive Board please refrain from seeking the call at this stage. As I suspect there'll be a lot of speakers on this, it does fill up the board. It makes it difficult for Executive Board members to know exactly when they're likely to be speaking. When we have moved through the Executive Board, I will then open the floor to member states who are not members of the Executive Board. The final thing I thought I should mention, a couple of times yesterday, the interpreters requested that speakers give regard to the speed at which they're delivering their interventions. Can I please encourage those that do have pre-prepared statements to provide them as normal to translators? That makes it a lot easier for translators and also increases the chances that your words are accurately translated into all 6 languages, which I think is in your interest in terms of communicating to the full meeting here today. So with that, I now open the floor for discussion. I give the floor to Saudi Arabia, followed by Bulgaria.
هذا البيان أقدمه نيابة عن الدول الأعضاء في إقليم الشرق المتوسط. بعد أكثر من عامين من العنف المحتدم يعيش سكان قطاع غزة واحدة من أخطر الأزمات الإنسانية والصحية في عصرنا. فقد قتل أكثر من 70,000 فلسطيني.
Saudi Arabia, can you just pause for a second? I'm not receiving translation. Can we just check the translation is working?
Please.
I would like everyone to have access.
So I can repeat the facts again.
Yeah. Can someone just confirm when we have translation? Is that okay now? Can one of the interpreters just let me know whether... Yes, is that a... Yes, we've got a thumbs up. Okay, let's make sure we restart the timer and move to our colleague from Saudi Arabia. You have the floor.
هذا البيان أقدمه نيابة عن الدول الأعضاء في.
Thank you very much indeed, and I'm making this statement on behalf of the EMRO member states. After more than 2 years of relentless violence, the people of the Gaza Strip are living through one of the gravest humanitarian and health crises of our time. More than 70,000 people have been killed and over 170,000 injured. 1 in 4 of those injured will need long-term rehab. Over 18,000 patients are left with life-threatening conditions, 4,000 of them children, and they await medical evacuation. At least 421 people have died from malnutrition in 2025, including 113 young children. Thousands of children under the age of 5 remain at risk of acute malnutrition. Even healthcare facilities have not been spared. Since October 2023, 1,900 attacks on healthcare have been documented across the occupied Palestinian territory. In the Gaza Strip alone, almost 1,000 people have been killed in documented attacks by Israel affecting health facilities and medical transport. Over 1,700 health workers are reported dead, with others detained or injured. In addition, humanitarian access remains dangerously constrained. In the 80 days following the ceasefire, only 19,764 aid trucks entered the Gaza Strip. That's fewer than half of the 48,000 that were agreed upon. Meanwhile, 37 international non-governmental organizations have been notified by Israel that their work will be forced to stop across the occupied Palestinian territory. The consequences are very severe, particularly for the health sector. Displacement, destruction, and winter conditions are now deepening the crisis. Over 80% of all infrastructure in the Gaza Strip is damaged. People are living in flooded tents without clean water, sanitation, or heating. Disease risks remain extremely high, including acute respiratory infections, hepatitis, and measles. Chairman, since it's been in place, the ceasefire has been violated 1,000 times, resulting in 418 Palestinian deaths and 1,141 injuries. We urge the international community to put pressure on the Israeli authorities to uphold the peace plan, respect international humanitarian law, and allow unhindered humanitarian access. And I'll send you the full text in writing to the Secretariat.
Thank you very much. I now turn to Bulgaria, followed by Spain.
Chair, I have the honor of speaking on behalf of the European Union, its 27 member states, the candidate countries North Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, and Georgia, as well as the EFTA country Iceland, member of the European Economic Area, as well as Armenia, align themselves with this statement. We would like to thank the Director General for the report on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, which outlines public health implications of the humanitarian crisis. WHO has been instrumental in supporting the people of Gaza who have been suffering in the current crisis. We thank WHO, in particular its ever-committed team in the occupied Palestinian territory, for their incredible work and dedication. We welcome that WHO has been scaling up operations since a ceasefire took effect across the Gaza Strip to support life-saving health services, strengthen readiness to meet urgent needs, and support the early recovery of the severely damaged health system. Ensuring access to health care, safeguarding patients, healthcare workers, hospitals, and medical transport, addressing malnutrition and communicable disease outbreaks, providing mental health and psychosocial support remains essential. To further elevate the dire humanitarian situation, we continue to call for immediate, unimpeded, and safe access and sustained distribution of the humanitarian aid at scale into and throughout Gaza. The work of the UN and its agencies, as well as the Red Cross and the Red Crescent Movement and the relevant international NGOs, must be facilitated in line with the humanitarian principles. With much of the medical system destroyed, these organizations continue to play an indispensable role in the provision of medical services. Medical evacuations of patients from Gaza should be facilitated, which requires additional evacuation routes, access to hospitals in East Jerusalem and the West Bank, and the ability for patients to voluntarily return to Gaza. Moreover, medical assistance, as well as the restoring of healthcare facilities, remains crucial. The European Union will continue to support the Palestinian Authority, including in its ongoing reform and with a view to its return to Gaza. The EU and its member states also remain the largest provider of humanitarian aid for the occupied Palestinian territory, having mobilized €1.7 billion since 2023. The European Union stands ready to continue to support peace in Gaza through its humanitarian, security, diplomatic, and cooperation tools, and to work together with partners on the implementation of the comprehensive peace plan for Gaza in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 2803. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Spain, followed by Bruno Darussalam.
Muchas gracias.
Many thanks, Chair. Spain aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. We are grateful for the document contained in EB 158/25 submitted by the Secretariat, and we express our full support for the WHO personnel and the personnel of other humanitarian agencies providing assistance to the Palestinian people in such difficult circumstances. We welcome the ceasefire agreement reached in October. We strongly condemn the unbearable number of victims, in particular women and children, and the degree of devastation caused by indiscriminate attacks against the civilian population and the health infrastructure, in flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. Spain has financially supported the activities of WHO connected with emergency medical teams. And we've played an active role in medical evacuation programs, and we encourage other member states to do so as well in order to alleviate the circumstances in the Gaza Strip. We support the recommendations of the Director General for improving the health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. And we encourage the reconstruction to be carried out in a very inclusive way, bearing in mind all stakeholders, including UNRWA as a vital humanitarian agency. We have condemned the new aggressions against UNRWA facilities perpetrated by the Israeli authorities, which are an unacceptable violation of the privileges and immunities of the United Nations. The government of Spain re-indicates its support for UNRWA. It's vital in order to provide for the refugee and people in UNRWA, in Palestine. We support UNRWA in order to deal with the needs of the Palestinian refugee population until we find a just solution in the region. We are committed to a sustainable peace in the region, and we are committed to implementing the two-state solution with Israel and Palestine living alongside each other in peace and security. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now call on Bruno Darussalam, followed by Lebanon.
Thank you, Chair. Bruno Darussalam thanks the Director General for the report on the ongoing and severe health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. We are deeply alarmed by the continued humanitarian and public health crisis, including the widespread disruption of essential medical services, repeated attacks on healthcare, outbreak of the diseases, and shortages of life-saving medicines and supplies. Bruno Darussalam reaffirms its unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people who continue to endure immense suffering as a result of protracted occupation, violence and instability. The degradation of healthcare infrastructure and disrupted medical care compound the humanitarian catastrophe and undermine international humanitarian law and the fundamental right to health. In this context, Bruno Darussalam again reiterates our call for immediate, safe, sustained and unhindered humanitarian access, including for essential health and medical assistance in line with international humanitarian law so that those most in need can receive timely treatment and care. We also urge all parties concerned to cease acts of violence and hostilities, ensure the protection of civilians, patients and health personnel, and safeguard health facilities and medical transport. Efforts to address the humanitarian dimension must go hand in hand with meaningful action to address the root causes of this crisis. Bruno Darussalam supports the recommendations in the Director General's report, including those to protect health workers and facilities, facilitate urgent medical evacuations, restore essential services, and strengthen health system recovery. Bruno Darussalam stands resolutely with the Palestinian people and calls upon the international community to act urgently to protect health and life, alleviate suffering, and support the restoration of essential health services. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Lebanon, followed by Australia.
Mr. Chair, Lebanon thanks the Director General for the comprehensive, evidence-based report, and Lebanon associates itself with the statement delivered by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on behalf of EMRO. While Lebanon takes note of the ceasefire and recent political development, yet the scale and severity of the public health consequences of the humanitarian crisis on the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and particularly in Gaza, remain profoundly alarming. Lebanon expresses deep concern over continued violations by Israel, the occupying power, affecting civilians and the delivery of health care. These include attacks on health facilities and personnel, obstruction of humanitarian access, and severe restrictions on medical evacuations. Such actions undermine the right to health and constitute serious violation of international humanitarian law. Report after report, the DG has documented the magnitude of this catastrophe, the collapse of the health system, mass casualties, widespread displacement, repeated attacks on healthcare, and critical shortages of medicines, fuel, food, and water. The extensive damage to hospitals and primary healthcare facilities, together with the long-term health consequences for civilians, particularly women and children, underscore the gravity of this crisis. Lebanon strongly supports the DG's recommendation, including the need to maintain and strengthen the ceasefire, ensure unrestricted humanitarian access, accelerate the restoration of life-saving health services, and safeguard patients, healthcare workers, hospital, and medical transport. The international community must redouble pressure on Israel, the occupying power, to halt its violation, uphold a durable ceasefire, and allow unhindered humanitarian access to Gaza. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I give the floor to Australia, followed by Israel.
Chair. Australia thanks the Director-General for his report and commends the tireless work of WHO staff in Gaza. We deeply appreciate WHO's efforts with partners to deliver essential supplies and deploy medical teams to address urgent health needs amid exceptional challenges, including attacks on health facilities. There is a very long road to recovery in Gaza. Australia is aiding recovery through ongoing humanitarian support and by enhancing the Palestinian Authority's governance capacity. Australia welcomes the adoption of United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803 and the announcement of the launch of Phase 2 of the 20-point comprehensive plan. We want to see an end to the suffering in Gaza and a sustainable peace. We continue to urge all parties to uphold the terms of the ceasefire and work towards implementing the plan in full. With the ceasefire in place, every effort must now be made to end the suffering of the people of Gaza. Sustained and unimpeded humanitarian aid must flow to those in desperate need, and aid workers must be protected to enable their life-saving work. Australia remains unequivocal in our condemnation of Hamas's horrific attack on 7 October 2023 and ongoing acts of terror. Gaza must no longer be used as a platform for terrorism. The terrorist organisation Hamas must have no role in Palestine's future. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Israel, followed by Norway.
Chair, unfortunately, this session of the WHO-EB continued to confirm what we have long stated. This organization is in a dire need of reform to refocus on its core mandate. In relation to the facilitation of the departure of patients from Gaza Strip, as mentioned in the report, this claim is a clear distortion of fact, as Israel has repeatedly communicated to WHO. Thousands of patients have been cleared for exit Gaza. The delay occurred on the receiving side. Throughout the past 2.5 years, Israel has continued to facilitate medical assistance and patient evacuations. This report provides projections that have never met reality. Most bluntly, it ignores the most recent UN publication confirming that 100% of food needs are met. As we are reviewing this report in 2026, those projections must have been reviewed and removed. We therefore question how this report contributes in any meaningful way to improving the health situation in Gaza. The answer, it does not. By focusing largely on the first half of 2025, the report is irrelevant to the current needs. It fuels yet another politicized discussion while deliberately ignoring crucial facts on the ground. At the same time, there have been important developments that we commend, that we welcome. We most notably the establishment of the Board of Peace. A ceasefire is now in place. There have been a positive movement toward moving to the second phase following the return of the last body of the Israeli hostage from Gaza. The international community should now focus on its effort on demilitarization, de-radicalization, allowing the reconstructions of Gaza. Furthermore, Israel notes with concern that certain countries that joined the Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration that have since joined the newly established Board of Peace are now submitting a draft decision for consideration by the WHO Executive Board. Rather than reflecting their stated commitment to dialogue, cooperation, and confidence building, this initiative appears aimed at preserving the Executive Board as a platform for political confrontation against Israel. This is particularly troubling at the time when the organization faces a severe financial crisis. It should fully focus on its core health mandate. This diversion of limited time and resources toward politicized agenda undermines the credibility,
Thank you. Time has expired. I now call on Norway, followed by Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair. The war in Gaza has led to tremendous destruction, suffering and death. It is now crucial that all parties respect the ceasefire agreement and that life-saving aid reaches all people in need. More food supplies are getting into Gaza. However, the civilian population continues to face extremely difficult conditions, no further worsened by the winter weather conditions. Norway commends the tremendous efforts of WHO and other humanitarian actors, which is essential to alleviate suffering in Gaza. We reiterate the obligation of Israel as occupying power to grant unhindered access to Gaza for aid and aid workers. UN and international humanitarian organizations must be allowed to operate in Gaza. We urge Israel to respect the mandate of UNRWA, which was renewed by the UN General Assembly as recently as December, and to allow the organization to operate and provide services to the Palestinian people. Over the past 2 years, we have been witnessing a rapid collapsing health system, attacks on health facilities and medical personnel. We underline the extreme urgency of providing safe space and adequate medical supplies and healthcare. Patients requiring treatment in East Jerusalem and Ramallah should be provided with access in and out of Gaza. Also, patients in the West Bank should be granted safe and unhindered passing to health facilities. Finally, one of the key challenges now is to get dual-use spare parts into Gaza in order to repair essential infrastructure. Repair of water and sanitation is vital. I thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Saudi Arabia, followed by the Central African Republic.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. تتقدم المملكة بالشكر. شكرا السيد الرئيس. تتقدم المملكة بالشكر والتقدير للمدير العام.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the DG for his report on the health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. This report reflects the scope of the humanitarian and health catastrophe faced by civilians on the occupied Palestinian territory, the almost complete collapse of the health system in the Gaza Strip and restrictions on humanitarian access highlight the fact that this is not just an emergency, but a direct threat to human rights and the right to life. We support the efforts of WHO and other humanitarian agencies in combating the dangers caused by the military operations of Israel in the Gaza Strip. We express our concern in the face of the deteriorating humanitarian situation and the lack of sufficient humanitarian assistance. There's a need to eliminate the obstacles on unhindered access of humanitarian access. This exacerbates humanitarian and health dangers. More than 1,900,000 displaced people live in a very serious humanitarian situation, including malnutrition, famine, diseases, and in particular above the elderly, children and women. This situation is deteriorating further. The health sector has been affected in a very serious manner. We call on the international community to take on illegal ethical responsibilities and to ensure that these restrictions are lifted, in particular restrictions on humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip immediately and in an unrestricted manner. This aid must be transported to the people in need. The passages have to be opened, the routes have to be opened. We reassert that facing this serious situation in the occupied Palestinian territory cannot be separated from the issue of the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination, creation of an independent Palestinian state within the framework of 1967 with East Jerusalem as a capital in line with the relevant resolution and the Arab Peace Initiative. Thank you.
African Republic, followed by DPR Korea.
D'accord. La puissante
The CAR has the honor to make this statement on behalf of the 47 member states of the WHO Africa region. The Africa Group would like to thank the DG of the WHO for his report on the health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. We commend the efforts of WHO and its partners to respond to an exceptional crisis. The African Group recalls that health staff, patients, hospitals, and medical transport have to be respected and protected under all circumstances. This is a fundamental pillar of international law. The African Group takes note of the entry into force of the ceasefire and believes that it is a vital step. It would like to mention the following measures to facilitate priority health actions, setting up permanent, safe, predictable mechanisms, humanitarian mechanisms to ensure rapid evacuation of patients in critical situations, particularly children, on the basis of strict medical conditions. Strengthening mechanisms for surveillance and notification of attacks against healthcare facilities under the WHO coordination, as well as psychosocial support and securing staff, health staff, guaranteeing provision of essential medicals, fuel, and medical oxygen, recognition and protection of ambulance and other medical transport, and setting up a coordinated medical transport system supported by the international community. The need for a health recovery plan by WHO together with the Palestinian health authorities. The 47 member states of the African region take note of the report and call on the members of the executive board to follow up on the guidelines through concrete and coordinated action in order to protect human lives, protect health systems, and create conditions for credible health recovery. I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, point to paraphrase Kofi Annan's statement. We can have various religions, various languages, I'd like to even say different ideologies, different color of skin, but we are all humans. We all belong to the human race. We all have the same royal blood in our body. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to DPR Korea, followed by Japan.
Thank you, Chair. The DPRK appreciates the report the Director General presented. We also commend WHO's humanitarian response to health emergencies. We express grave concern over the serious health conditions in Palestinian territory and strongly denounce and reject the Israel's criminal act, which further aggravates the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. We hold that it is most important to strongly demand Israel to immediately stop the illegal armed attack on civilians and health facilities and completely withdraw from Gaza Strip. The restrictions on inflow of humanitarian aid supplies, including medicines and food, should be lifted without delay. In this regard, we support the recommendations by the Director General for improving conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory. Thank you.
Thank you. Japan, followed by Somalia.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the situation surrounding Gaza, the ceasefire established under the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict, the increased delivery of humanitarian supplies and the return of all hostages represent a significant progress. Now, it is essential for the international community to unite and work together to ensure the ceasefire is sustained, and that all those efforts during the second phase from the early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza through stabilization to the establishment of civil governance advance in a steady manner. Declining function at medical facilities and the deteriorating sanitary situation in OPT continue to be of our concern. In this vein, last September, the government of Japan decided to implement a grant project amounted to the approximately $6 million, that is 861 million yen, in collaboration with WHO. Japan has also recently decided on the additional assistance package amounted to the $170 million, that is 25 billion yen. to the Palestinian people, including early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza. In the new package, we will provide assistance in health sector, including supply of medical equipment. Japan will continue to play an active role in the Middle East peace process, working in coordination with the relevant countries and the international organization to ensure the steady implementation of the comprehensive plan and to advance the realization of two-state solutions. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Somalia, followed by Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. Director General, esteemed colleagues, good morning. Somalia aligns itself with a statement delivered by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on behalf of the Eastern Mediterranean region and expresses deep concern over the catastrophic health and humanitarian situations in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. We note the grave alarm, the scale of civilian casualties, widespread destruction of health infrastructure, repeated attacks on health facilities and health workers, and the collapse of essential services, including maternal, child, nutrition, and water and sanitation. The declaration of human conditions and the sharp rise in acute malnutrition, particularly among children, women, underscore the urgent need for sustained and unhindered humanitarian access. Somalia fully supports the WHO's call for the protection of health workers, patients, medical facilities, transport, and for the immediate restoration and the scale-up of essential health and nutrition services, including trauma care, nutrition, treatment, mental health, and psychosocial support, and access to safe water. We further echo the regional statement in urging all parties to uphold the international humanitarian law, ensure safe and unimpeded access of humanitarian and medical assistance, and support the urgent medical evacuation for those who need specialized care. Finally, Somalia commends the WHO for its leadership under extremely constrained conditions and joins the region in calling for sustained international solidarity, coordinated support, enabling early recovery and long-term health system restoration in occupied Palestinian territory. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Egypt.
And thank you, Excellency Chair. Egypt, first of all, aligns itself with the statement delivered by the esteemed representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We welcome the report presented by the DG. In this regard, Egypt rejects in the strongest terms the allegations made by the delegation of Israel regarding Egypt's position on humanitarian evacuations from Gaza. These claims are not only factually incorrect, but represent a deliberate attempt to deflect responsibility from the occupying power for the catastrophic humanitarian tragedy it has created in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. Let us be unequivocally clear. Egypt has consistently worked under extremely difficult circumstances to facilitate humanitarian access, protect civilians, and support life-saving medical evacuations in full compliance with international law and our national sovereignty. Egypt's border has remained open for humanitarian aid, medical transfers, and relief operations, despite the unprecedented scale of destruction, insecurity, and operational barriers caused by ongoing military actions by Israel. The primary obstacle to safe evacuation is not Egypt. It is the reality of indiscriminate bombardment, destruction of health infrastructure, and obstruction of humanitarian corridors by Israel. Hospitals have been attacked, ambulances targeted, and medical personnel killed. This is not a logistical challenge. It is a systematic dismantling of Gaza's health systems. Under international humanitarian law, including the Fourth Geneva Convention, Israel, as the occupying power, bears full legal responsibility for the welfare of the civilian population in Gaza, including ensuring access to medical care, safe passage, and protection of health facilities. This obligation cannot be...
Thank you. Egypt, can you please cease? Thank you. I'm just checking. I see no other executive board members seeking the floor. Therefore, I call on Kuwait, followed by Palestine.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. ينضم وفد بلادي للبيان الذي
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. And we align ourselves with the statement delivered by Saudi Arabia on behalf of EMRO. We express our deep concern with regard to the continuing deterioration of health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory and continued attacks against health workers and health facilities by the occupying power, which is destroying the health system and is in flagrant violation of international humanitarian law, which provides for the protection of such facilities. It's important to ensure a total and sustained ceasefire and unhindered progress for humanitarian assistance and healthcare workers. We reaffirm WHO's key role in providing humanitarian assistance, and we urge the international community to do likewise. We continue to support the right of the Palestinian people to health, and we reiterate our willingness to continue to work with WHO to guarantee the protection of the health system and improve the health conditions there.
Resolve that now. Is that button being pushed? Okay, I'll now give the floor to Qatar. Then we'll be followed by Palestine. I see no other executive board members. Qatar.
إلى البيان الذي قدمته المملكة العربية السعودية.
Many thanks, Chair, and we support the statement delivered by Saudi Arabia on behalf of EMRO. Chair, we all know the main reason for the deteriorating health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and the occupied Syrian Golan, namely the continued and sustained military attacks against Palestinians, targeting health facilities, health workers, and the discriminatory attacks on health facilities, the closure of humanitarian corridors, and the efforts to prevent patients from being evacuated. The Gaza Strip has suffered from blockade and deliberate famine and denial of health facilities and medicines. The health system has collapsed. And this is unprecedented in history. And the occupying power, Israel, continues to completely ignore the recommendations and resolutions of the United Nations. In fact, it continues to pursue its attacks against the Palestinian people and to destroy all means of living in the territory, and continues to prevent medical and humanitarian access, including attacks on medical vehicles and the prevention of free movement in the territory, including of the injured. It has closed points of passage, and it's detained the sick and injured, and these operations continue, often against health workers. We support the draft resolution to strengthen efforts designed to promote health care in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, and efforts to restore the health situation there.
By Turkey. Turkey.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. بداية أتوجه بالشكر.
Many thanks, Chair. At the outset, allow me to express my sincere thanks to the Director General and to the Regional Office and the Country Office of WHO for the report and the call to implement all of these resolutions. It's difficult to describe the catastrophic health situation in Palestine. Just read the report of the Office for the High Commissioner of Human Rights. More than 1,600 health workers, 90%, over 90% of hospitals destroyed by Israel, more than 200 ambulances attacked, more than 18,000 patients in need of medical evacuation. Just about 5 every day are allowed to be evacuated. So this is the situation. It's impossible to do that. And all of the lies that we've heard from the occupying power must be challenged so that we can reaffirm that clearly Israel is the cause of this situation and has prevented the work of 37 NGOs.
And followed by Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Turkey supports the draft resolution on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, as a co-sponsor and welcomes the report of the DG. The grave humanitarian and health situation in Gaza remains a priority for our collective efforts. The ceasefire has allowed a very limited resumption of humanitarian and health assistance. Health facilities continue to operate under severe strain, and access to care and essential medicines remain extremely limited. This man-made crisis is the result of prolonged restrictions, repeated attacks on health infrastructure, and limitations imposed on access to medical services by Israel. Turkey remains committed to supporting international efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people, protect health services, and ensure the safe and unimpeded delivery of health care. Recovery efforts must begin without delay. The opening of the Rafah border gate for the movement of persons should be extended to allow the immediate entry of humanitarian aid and essential supplies, including container housing units. Turkey stands ready to dispatch 20,000 such units. We also underscore the indispensable role of UNRWA in providing critical health and education services and call upon all partners to stand by UNRWA. We emphasize the need to sustain and strengthen the ceasefire to ensure safe and unhindered humanitarian.
Thank you. I give the floor to Pakistan, followed by Algeria.
Thank you very much, Chair. Pakistan has the honor to deliver the statement on behalf of 57 member states of the OIC. The OIC condemns, in the strongest and most unequivocal terms, the deliberate devastation of the health system across the occupied Palestinian territory arising from Israel's unlawful policies and actions in flagrant violation of international law. Israel's continuing unprovoked attacks and restrictions have brought the health system in Gaza and other affected areas to a complete collapse, denying innocent civilians access to essential and life-saving care. According to WHO Director General's report from January 2026, between 1st January and 31st of August 2025, there were 18,004 deaths and 52,281 injuries, alongside 335 documented attacks on healthcare workers. The report also notes that 94% of hospitals in Gaza have been damaged and that only 39% of primary healthcare facilities remain functional, which severely undermine access to care. Children, Chair, are bearing the heaviest burden of this man-made crisis more than any other group. Conditions of famine, acute malnutrition, unsafe water, and collapsing sanitation systems are driving preventable disease and death, particularly among children, pregnant women, and the elderly. In this regard, Chair, the OIC calls for adoption of draft resolution on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, and in particular welcomes its recommendation. We also call for rejection of the amendment proposed by Israel to the draft resolution. The OIC calls for continued and strengthened WHO reporting on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory so that health needs are assessed accurately, an effective response is implemented on ground, and accountability of the Israeli perpetrator is ensured. We also call for full, safe, and unhindered access, humanitarian and medical access to Gaza, including the opening of humanitarian corridors and the urgent provision of relief supplies, water, electricity, and fuel to sustain health and humanitarian operations. Finally, Chair, the OIC once again reaffirms its unequivocal support for the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, including their inalienable right to self-determination and the realization of an independent state of Palestine on pre-1967 borders with Al-Quds, Al-Sharif as its capital. I thank you very much.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Algeria, followed by Iran.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. First of all, Algeria would like to thank the Director General for the comprehensive report and the continued commitment of the WHO teams working under extremely challenging and often unsafe conditions. The situation in the occupied Palestinian territory remains a severe and protracted public health emergency, with thousands of civilians affected, nearly 2 million displaced, rising food insecurity, child malnutrition, and weakened disease surveillance, increasing the risk of outbreaks and long-term health consequences. We commend WHO's operational response, including emergency medical support surveillance and coordination with partners, and we support the Director General's recommendations. Algeria's position remains clear. The only solution to the Palestinian question is ensuring Palestinian legitimate rights, including self-determination and the establishment of an independent state with Al-Quds as its capital. Finally, we reaffirm our solidarity with the Palestinian people and commitment to international humanitarian law and the right to health. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Iran, followed by Malaysia.
Thank you, Chair. The delegation of the Islamic Republic of Iran wishes to thank the Director General for their report on health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. Each line of this document reveals staggering casualty numbers, depicting a horrific reality for innocent Palestinians, especially women and children. We read of patients forcibly relocated during treatment, death from malnutrition, the denial of water access, delayed vaccinations, and rampant disease. Tragically, there has been no meaningful improvement. Iran condemns the Israeli regime for its violation against the Palestinian people. Just 2 days ago, the UN Secretary General stated that over 500 Palestinians have been killed since last October's ceasefire. He condemned, in the strongest terms, Israeli demolition of the UN compound in Sheikh Jarrah, as well as Israel's discriminatory policies in the West Bank, which include evidence of entrenched racial discrimination. The tragedy in Gaza is a tragedy for all humanity. This is not a war against a group, but war against ethics and morality itself. These actions constitute egregious violation of international law, creating intolerable conditions for Palestinians.
Thank you. I'll now give the floor to Malaysia, followed by France.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia aligns itself with the statement of the OIC. We commend the DG and the WHO Secretariat for preparing this precise report. Malaysia stands in solidarity with Palestine and deeply regrets the lives lost and the severe health and humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory. Gaza's healthcare system has now been effectively dismantled in its entirety. Malaysia therefore calls on all parties to take immediate and concrete steps to improve the healthcare conditions in Palestine, which includes, among others, the upholding of international humanitarian and human rights law and the right to self-determination. To conclude, Malaysia reiterates its urgent call for an immediate cessation of all aggression, the restoration of an adequate public health system, and a sustainable and lasting peace in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to France, followed by the United Arab Emirates.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you, Chair. France aligns itself with a statement delivered by Bulgaria. 100 days after the reaching of a ceasefire in Gaza, the humanitarian health emergency remains. A response to the vast needs of the population remains insufficient. It's therefore urgent that Israel removes all the barriers to humanitarian assistance. NGOs and the United Nations must be able to act impartially in accordance with international law in Gaza. France reiterates its full support for WHO in Gaza and in the West Bank, and we welcome the implementation of the 60-day plan to re-establish vital health services and the restoration of the healthcare system. We have provided €2 million for screening and dealing with acute malnutrition in Gaza, and France pays tribute to the last hostage held by Hamas, who had been returned to Israel, which has opened the way to the ceasefire plan, leading to a lasting peace. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to United Arab Emirates, followed by Brazil. Can you just push the button again? I think then when we have to queue you up. Yeah, there we go. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. The United Arab Emirates expresses its deep appreciation to the Director General, the Secretariat, and the technical teams of the World Health Organization for their continued efforts in monitoring health conditions and coordinating the humanitarian response to the occupied Palestinian territory. This subject lies at the core of the UAE's priorities, reflecting its firm belief that safeguarding the right to health, alleviating civilian suffering, and ensuring access to medical services are shared humanitarian responsibilities that must be addressed without delay. The UAE has delivered a broad humanitarian response in support of the Palestinian people, and particularly in the health sector, the UAE has played a critical role in keeping medical services running. The integrated UAE field hospitals in Gaza, operational since December 2023, continues to provide treatment, including for specialized initiative for fitting prosthetics for amputees. An integrated floating hospital was also deployed off the coast of Egypt. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Brazil, followed by Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Brazil thanks the Director General for this report and reminds the imperative to all parties to respect and enforce international humanitarian law and human rights. Brazil commends WHO for scaling up operations to restore life-saving services and stress the urgent need to protect and rebuild health facilities, address malnutrition, facilitate medical evacuations, and ensure that NGOs and emergency medical teams can continue their vital work. We also praise the proposed expansion of mental health and psychological support as a fundamental tool to help people affected by the ongoing genocide to overcome their trauma. Finally, only a political solution grounded in international law and based on the two-state solution can deliver sustainable peace. This entails an independent, sovereign, and viable Palestinian state and full respect for the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Indonesia, followed by South Africa. Indonesia, no, it's there, down the bottom.
Thank you, Chair. We align with the statement by Pakistan on behalf of the OIC. We are gravely concerned by health conditions in the OPT. Half of Gaza's hospitals are non-functional, struggling with critical shortages and leaving people without care. Communicable diseases are rising and attacks continue on health workers and facilities. There can be no public health without peace. The occupation must end. We condemn Israel's repeated violation of the ceasefire in Gaza and condemn action against UNRWA's premises. The international community must pave the way for the two-state solution. We support WHO's important role in humanitarian response in Gaza and OPT as a whole and urge for their rapid and unimpeded delivery. WHO reporting on health conditions in the OPT must continue to assess health needs, guide an effective response, and ensure accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to South Africa, followed by China.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa thanks the Director General for the report and aligns with the Africa Group statement. South Africa congratulates the Palestinian Ministry of Health and the humanitarian partners on progress made in the restoration of services at 16 health services points, of which 13 denied Gaza City, including immunization of citizens and 3 successful open-heart surgeries at Al-Quds Hospital. Notwithstanding, we remain concerned about severe malnutrition found in children and note with concern that patients continue to die while awaiting evacuation. In this regard, we urge those with resources to make them available for urgent medical care. South Africa welcomes the ceasefire as it has the potential to elevate profound human suffering and build much-needed confidence. The ceasefire must be backed by a definitive political process that will address the pertinent question of the realization of alienable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and statehood. Accordingly, South Africa supports the draft decision and urges the Executive Board to support it. I thank you.
Thank you. China, followed by Ireland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. First of all, China noted the report submitted by DG and supports the draft resolution submitted by Qatar and other countries. At present, although the first phase of the ceasefire agreement has been concluded, the prospect of peace is far from realized. The suffering of people in Gaza continues. We support WHO, UNRWA, and other agencies in providing food, medical care, and educational assistance to people in Gaza. We call for the opening of all crossing points, the removal of restrictions on humanitarian supplies, and we support the humanitarian agencies in conducting their activities in Gaza. Recently, President Xi Jinping announced that China will provide $100 million in assistance to Palestinians to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis and support rebuilding and recovery. China stands ready to work with the international community to promote a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire and advance the early implementation of the two-state solution. We will make unremitting efforts towards a comprehensive, just, and lasting settlement of the Palestinian question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Ireland, followed by Hungary.
Chair, Ireland aligns with the statement delivered by Bulgaria on behalf of the European Union and its member states. We welcome ongoing efforts to implement Phase 2 of the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. We are deeply concerned that improvements in humanitarian access envisaged in Phase 1 have not fully materialised. The people of Gaza still do not have enough to eat, adequate shelter from winter weather, or sufficient access to medicines, healthcare and sanitation. During her recent visit to the Rafah crossing, our Minister for Foreign Affairs saw firsthand the impact that restrictions on aid are having on the ability of humanitarian aid workers to deliver badly needed aid to Palestinians in Gaza. Israel must immediately remove restrictions and facilitate these essential supplies and services to reach people across the Gaza Strip. Ireland stands ready to play our part in working towards a sustainable peace between Israel and Palestine through the implementation of the two-state solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Hungary, followed by Tunisia.
Thank you, Chair. Hungary commends the work of the WHO and we thank the Director General for the report. However, we do not consider the report comprehensive as it does not include statistical data beyond September 2025 and therefore does not meaningfully assess the impact of the ceasefire that entered into force, only reflecting the changed circumstances in the recommendations. Hungary fully supports President Trump's peace plan and following the successful implementation of the first phase, we welcome the launch of the second phase. We believe it is essential for the international community to support this humanitarian-centered peace plan while fully respecting Israel's legitimate security interests. Hungary's commitment to peace is demonstrated by its participation as a founding member in the Board of Peace, overseeing the governance and reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Finally, Hungary supports the amendments tabled by Israel to streamline the work of the WHO. I thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Tunisia, followed by Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like at the outset to commend the work of WHO and its Director General in order to provide health urgent assistance and to respond to the emergency status in the Palestinian territories, and we support the statement made by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We would like to say that although Israel hinders the entrance of the assistance to Gaza, and also this is part of the constitution of the WHO's work, as there has been a deterioration of the infrastructure, which I also would like to emphasize that the Council has to take urgent measures to strengthen the work in the occupied Palestinian territories, and that Israeli authorities have to carry out their responsibilities. Finally, my country says that the increasing and difficult situation can only be solved by a ceasefire and a non-conditional arrival of assistance to the Palestinian people and their right to determine their future. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Speaker spoke in a very fast manner. Thank you.
I give the floor to Canada, followed by Namibia.
Thank you, Chair. Canada thanks the DG for his report. Despite the limited improvements since the Gaza ceasefire, Canada remains alarmed by the catastrophic humanitarian situation and ongoing impediments to the delivery of life-saving assistance. We are equally alarmed about the escalating humanitarian needs in the West Bank. The DG recommendations reflect the range of critical issues undermining the health sector in Palestine, from severe acute malnutrition, trauma, and mass casualty management and psychosocial support. We call on Israel to reverse its policy on deregistration of international NGOs and its policies intended to undermine the UN's work throughout Palestine. Many of these INGOs work in the health sector. We also urge Israel to facilitate rapid, sustained, unimpeded access for humanitarian assistance into Gaza at scale, and to cease the continued denial of critical supplies under the so-called dual-use restrictions. Canada welcomes the reopening of the Rafah border crossing, a key element under the Gaza peace plan. The crossing must remain open without undue restrictions to enable freedom of movement for Palestinians. Canada commends the WHO for its steadfast work delivering life-saving interventions and will...
Thank you. I give the floor to Namibia, followed by the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. Namibia notes with grave concern the DG's report, which exposes the catastrophic health crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, with over 18,000 deaths recorded in 2025 and famine declared in Gaza. The suffering of the Palestinian people is intolerable. Namibia strongly condemns the actions of the occupying power, Israel, including the reported 335 attacks on healthcare facilities. These violations of international humanitarian law have devastated an already fragile health system. Namibia reiterates its call for an immediate end to the illegal occupation. Chair, Namibia welcomes the ceasefire and calls for the following urgent measures. First, binding security guarantees to protect health workers, facilities and humanitarian actors. Second, immediate unhindered entry of fuel and medical supplies to restore functionality to the more than 50% of hospitals currently non-operational. And third, the establishment of a protected humanitarian corridor to enable the urgent medical evacuation of over 15,000 patients without access to care. The right to health is universal and must be upheld without exception. I thank you.
I give the floor to the United Kingdom, followed by Oman.
Thank you, Chair. The United Kingdom thanks the Director General for this sobering report. The devastation of the health system, with over 90% of hospitals and primary care facilities damaged, rising malnutrition, severe shortages of medicine, and widespread trauma, demands urgent collective action. We welcome the ceasefire that took effect in October. However, conditions remain life-threatening for the population. Just this weekend, there were reports of Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes across Gaza, including on an IDP camp. Over 500 people have been killed since the ceasefire was announced. We call on all parties to uphold the ceasefire, ensure the safe and unhindered flow of humanitarian assistance, and protect health workers and medical facilities in line with international humanitarian law. Israel must lift all restrictions on aid, allow essential medical supplies and fuel into Gaza, and ensure that UN agencies and NGOs can operate safely and effectively. Finally, we urge all board members to support WHO's recommendations and sustain the collective effort needed to re-establish a functioning health system for Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Oman, followed by Pakistan.
The Sultan of Oman does support the statement by the brotherly nation, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on behalf of EMRO, and after having read the report of the Director General about the health conditions in the Palestinian occupied territories, we say that the Palestinians have the right to health and to life. The health sector in the occupied territories of Palestine are grave violations because of the collapse of the health system and the continued attacks on the healthcare facilities and impeding access to the healthcare systems, and also impeding humanitarian ensigns from entering into Palestine. Sultanate Oman says that protection of the civilians and the healthcare personnel and securing access to humanitarian incidents have to be respected according to the IHL. The Sultanate of Oman also emphasizes the vital role of WHO and the United Nations organizations in monitoring the situation and providing technical support without impediment. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
I now give the floor to Pakistan, followed by Bangladesh.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan condemns Israel's continuous assault on health infrastructure in Palestine, particularly in Gaza, as part of its genocidal campaign against innocent civilians. The targeting of hospital ambulances, patients, and medical and humanitarian workers is unlawful and reflects a flagrant contempt for international humanitarian law, as documented in the DG's report. These attacks, alongside starvation, the cutting of water, and the obstruction of fuel and essential supplies, are driving Gaza's health system into total collapse and compounding the humanitarian catastrophe. Pakistan underscores the urgent need for immediate, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access to Gaza and calls for Israel to be held accountable for the collective punishment, including the denial and obstruction of humanitarian assistance to the people of Palestine. Pakistan has always stood and will continue to stand with the Palestinian people in their just struggle for the right to self-determination and for the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and contiguous state of Palestine based on pre-1967 borders with Al-Quds Al-Sharif as its capital. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Bangladesh, followed by Yemen.
Chair, Bangladesh aligns itself with the OSCE joint statement delivered by Pakistan. We thank the Director General for his report and calls for urgent implementation of his recommendations. We express our intention to sponsor the resolution proposed by Brazil, Egypt, Kuwait, Pakistan, Palestine, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Chair, we express our grave concern at the catastrophic healthcare crisis in Gaza, total destruction of its healthcare infrastructure. Health catastrophe in Gaza is compounded by famine, acute malnutrition, unsafe water, and collapsing sanitation system. 34 out of 36 hospitals are damaged. Mental health infrastructure has been devastated, leaving virtually no capacity to provide mental health support, particularly for the traumatized children. In this regard, we strongly condemn the attacks on health facilities and personnel in Gaza by Israel, which constitutes a grave violation of international humanitarian law. We call for unhindered and safe access to health service in Gaza. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Yemen, followed by Colombia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yemen supports the statement made by the brotherly nation of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on behalf of the countries of EMRO. And we thank the Director General for his report, which clarifies, unfortunately, the tragic collapse of the health system in the Palestinian occupied territories. 49% of the hospitals have been damaged, and more than 16,000 injured and patients are facing death because they cannot go through the crossings. This systematic targeting of the health system in both the Gaza Strip and the Western Bank is a violation of IHL. We ask that there could be a non-hindered access to medical treatment and to reconstruct the health system. Finally, we call upon the international society to ensure access to health. Remaining quiet is a crime. Thank you.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chair. Colombia thanks the Director General for the report, which rigorously documents the devastating consequences of the humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory. The figures are alarming. Thousands of fatalities and wounded, massive displacement and repeated attacks on healthcare and a health system seriously deteriorated, in particular in the Gaza Strip. We are very concerned by the declaration of famine, the aggravated child malnutrition, deterioration in maternal and neonatal health, and the devastating impact on the mental health of the population, particularly children and young people. This catastrophe is caused by occupation and genocide, and Colombia reiterates its solidarity with Palestine and its willingness to support any efforts designed to bring peace and the reconstruction of Gaza. Colombia welcomes the efforts of WHO in this extremely challenging environment and fully supports the recommendations of the Director General calling for the ceasefire and the continued unhindered access for humanitarian aid. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no more member states are seeking the floor. I will just check then whether there are any observers, UN bodies or IGOs that wish to seek the floor. Given that there is not, we have one non-state actor who has sought the floor. So I will give the floor to the Public Services International. You have the floor.
PSI welcomes the DG's report on the health conditions in the OPT with grave concern. Member states must address the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Palestine with firm resolve. Health services cannot be delivered where 94% of health facilities are damaged and only have function to some extent. Famine and starvation of children ravaging the territory are unacceptable. The 82% funding gap for WHO's support to the emergency response is shocking. We urge member states to contribute adequately. The targeting of health workers must be stopped. Since October 2023, at least 1,581 health workers have been killed and 359 detained. Up to 180 remain in custody even with the ceasefire. We urge member states to call for their immediate release. Finally, WHO should collaborate with Palestinian health workers' unions in its work in the OPT. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, this concludes the substantive discussion of the items. So as I see no more requests for the floor, may I take it that the board is ready to note the... Oh, pardon. Sorry. I neglected to give the Secretariat a reply to the comments. So I'll now throw to Dr. Chikwe Ihe-Kwezo, Executive Director, Health Emergencies, Preparedness and Response. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, distinguished delegates, for all your comments, your suggestions. We've taken note of all of them. Since the 10th of October, following the ceasefire in Gaza, WHO and our partners have pushed hard on the coordinated delivery of essential health services. 6 hospitals, 22 primary healthcare centers have regained some functionality, providing trauma and surgical care, maternal and child health services, and chronic disease management. However, no hospital is fully functional anywhere in the Gaza Strip, and none are operating in North Gaza. WHO and partners have continued to conduct routine immunization catch-up campaigns for children under 3 after 2 years of disrupted services. As of the 27th of January, 27,000 children have been vaccinated, with further rounds planned in March and April. Critical operational risks remain due to the deregistration of international NGOs. At the end of this month, 22 out of our 68 active partners will have been affected, impacting 14% of health services in the Gaza Strip. UNRWA continues to provide over 50% of primary health care consultation, but faces additional legislative challenges. Since October 2023, more than 10,000 patients have been evacuated from Gaza, while more than 18,500 patients still require evacuation, including 4,000 cancer patients. The last IPC analysis confirms that famine conditions are no longer present following the ceasefire. However, severe malnutrition still severe malnutrition continues to place pressure on treatment services, with 1,000 children under 5 admitted for severe malnutrition stabilization centers in 2025. Our objectives remain the same moving forward: to work with our health and humanitarian partners to support health and healthcare provision for the people in the OPT, and to facilitate the medical evacuation of the 18,500 people waiting, including 4,000 children, and ultimately to support the rehabilitation of the health system in Gaza. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that report. So I will return to where I was before. I see no more requests from the floor. May I take it that the board is ready to note the report contained in documents EB 158/25? I recognise Egypt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We need clarification from the Secretariat that those amendments proposed by one of the EB members are not included. Thank you.
I will pass to the Secretariat, but I think, yes, I'll pass to the Secretariat.
Thank you. Yes, that is the case. It's not the role of the Executive Board to amend reports of the Secretariat. So I think there were suggestions of changes to the report, but it's a Secretariat report. The action for the board is either to note or otherwise, as we saw yesterday, the report, but it's for practice in both the UN and WHO that the Secretariat's report is the Secretariat's report. It is an established fact. It has been submitted to you, and you're not taking action on the report itself. The action is in the decision point and any amendments you may take to it.
Thank you. So we'll come in a moment after this to the question of the conference papers and the actual decision, but the report itself is not amended. With that question for clarification, I'll just check that no one else is seeking to take the floor. No, in the absence of anyone else seeking to take the floor, I'll re-put the question. Is the board prepared to note the report contained in documents EB 158/25? I recognise Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for that clarification by the Secretariat. May I ask a follow-up question? Is the draft decision proposed by one of the EB members, including the amendment, we clear that that is not being considered at the moment? So we're not just talking about the draft report and the recommendation, we're also talking about the draft amendment that was suggested by one of the EB members. And also if you could clarify that we're sticking to the original draft decision that was contained in the report. Thank you.
So I can pass to the Secretariat, but what we're doing at the moment is we're noting the report. That report will have the original decision in it because it's not amended. Then this committee will consider the two conference papers that may amend the decision, which would effectively change the decision, even though the document with the underlying paper would not be revised.
Thank you. Perhaps I can just clarify the sequencing that we're going to go through. So at the moment, we are simply deciding whether to note the report of the Secretariat. That does not contain the decision. The decision and the proposed amendments will be considered after that. So the sequence is, do you want to note the report? Once you've decided that, we then move to the amendments which have been proposed to the draft decision. You will be asked if you want to adopt those amendments. Depending on your answer to that question, we will then look at the proposal either as amended or as unamended, and you will take a decision on the proposal. So 3 separate questions will be put to you. The first question, which the Chair has already put to you, is, do you want to note the report? The second question will be, do you want to adopt the amendments which have been proposed? And the third question will be, do you want to adopt the draft decision, either amended or unamended, depending on your answer to the second question?
Thank you. We'll just see if any other delegation would like to take the floor following that clarification from Legal Counsel. I see no other delegation seeking to take the floor. Therefore, once again, I ask, is the board ready to note the report contained in document EB 158/25? I see no objection. The report is noted. Now let us turn to the conference papers that are before us. We shall first consider the amendment contained in document EB 158/11 and then the draft resolution contained in document EB 158/4. Given the discussion, it would appear that consensus on the proposed amendment is unlikely to be achievable at this stage. So I would like to turn to the Legal Counsel now to just provide an indication of the way we would handle this on the assumption we can't reach consensus. Legal Counsel?
Thank you. Well, if the conclusion is that there is no consensus on the amendment, then we look to Rule 43 to tell us what to do. Rule 43 says, when an amendment to a proposal is moved, the amendment shall be voted on first. So we would proceed to conduct a vote on the amendment as proposed in Conference Paper 11.
So that is the way I intend to proceed. I mean, I could open the floor to establish the fact that we're not going to have consensus, but I think there are a number of delegations that made comments through the debate strongly indicating either support for the amendment or not supporting the amendment. So my intention is to move to a vote. I perhaps would like the legal counsel, because this is a complex area, perhaps if you could explain the impact of accepting that amendment, because that would then allow members to make an informed decision when they vote. Legal counsel?
Thank you. So the amendment is proposed amendment is to delete paragraph 1 of the draft decision. You'll see that the draft decision has two parts. The first part is paragraph 1, the second part is paragraph 2. Paragraph 1, the effect of paragraph 1 of the draft decision is to update the previous, in fact, let me take a step back. The draft resolution, if adopted, would adopt mutatis mutandis, a resolution that was previously adopted by the special session of the Executive Board in 2023, as is, other than making a few textual amendments to update it to make clear that the reporting requirement in that previous decision is updated. So it adopts the 2023 resolution, including its mandate for a reporting requirement, but it updates the dates and timing of that reporting requirement. Now, the proposal in the conference paper 11 is to delete the updating of the dates in the previous requirement, and that creates something of an anomaly. So if you accept the amendment, what that will mean is that you are adopting mutatis mutandis resolution SS7R1 of 2023 as is, apart from the amendments in what would then be the only operative paragraph, which is to report to the 80th Health Assembly, but it would then not have any updating of the dates. And what would that mean? It would mean that you were requesting a report to be prepared by the Secretariat and submitted to the 154th Executive Board meeting and the 4th meeting of the Standing Committee of the Health Assembly and the 77th World Health Assembly. Now, clearly, the Secretariat can't do that. So if you adopt the resolution as amended, you are creating a reporting requirement in the past that the Secretariat has no basis to fulfill. It's an impossibility. On that basis, the Secretariat would, I think, take the view that this is not a new reporting requirement. This is simply a reference to a reporting requirement that has been fulfilled in the past, and would therefore regard this as no new reporting requirement. Essentially, you would be discontinuing the reporting requirement. It's slightly convoluted and a difficult way of doing that, but I think essentially what the effect would be that there would be no new reporting requirement for the Secretariat under paragraph A, because the dates would be impossible to fulfill. Thank you. That would be my advice.
Thank you. I think that's a very useful clarification for the floor. I acknowledge that Saudi Arabia is seeking the call. Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would like to object the amendments proposed by Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. We have, I do see Lebanon, but just before I come to Lebanon, I will come to Lebanon. I'm happy to, I think it's perfectly normal in a debate of this type on an amendment to have some discussion about whether people are in favour or not. Obviously, if one is simply stating we're for it or against it, that ultimately will be the purpose of the vote. I can't resist you doing that, because obviously you are signalling to other people in in the board, your intention, that is fine. But I would hope we can have a reasonably quick debate on this question of the amendment, but it's up to members to do that. So I'll now cast to Lebanon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put on records that Lebanon also expresses its clear opposition to the amendment proposed by Israel to the draft resolution contained in Conference Document 4, which Lebanon supports as is. In our view, Resolution EBSS 7, to which draft Resolution EB 158 Conference 4 refers to, remain as relevant today as when it was adopted by consensus in December 2023, if not more so. So I just wanted to put this on record. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognise Somalia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and the legal team for the clarification. We oppose the amendment of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Somalia. I now recognise Qatar. You have the floor.
شكرا السيد الرئيس أن التعديل.
Thank you, Chair. This amendment will undermine efforts to support the health situation, therefore we reject it.
Yes, I recognise Egypt. You have the floor.
Excellency Chair, thank you very much. We also oppose the amendments, and this is a common practice by the same EB member. Every EB, we have the same debate, and we proceed with the vote, and they lose the vote, and we have it as usual. So I advise Your Excellency to proceed with the vote, and we just have it as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Egypt. I recognise Israel. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. To ease the mind of those who are worried, Israel does not welcomes the call for a vote, and we call for a vote by secret ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, given that comment has been made, I would just ask the legal counsel, and I acknowledge it, Israel, that you've asked for a secret ballot. It is probably worth the legal counsel just reminding the board of the rules of procedure that leads to a secret ballot. I pass to legal counsel.
Thank you. Well, the default mode of voting in the Executive Board is a show of hands or an unrecorded electronic vote. If one member of the board seeks a vote by roll call or recorded vote, then we automatically move to a vote on a recorded basis, a roll call vote. But Rule 57 does indeed permit you to move to a secret ballot in certain circumstances, and I will read Rule 57 to you. In addition to the cases provided for elsewhere by the rules of the board, by these rules, the board may vote on any matter by secret ballot if it has previously so decided by a majority of the members present and voting, providing that no secret ballot may be taken on budgetary questions. A decision under this rule by the board, whether or not to vote by secret ballot, may only be taken by show of hands. If the board has decided to vote on a particular question by secret ballot, no other mode of voting may be requested or decided upon. So, since there has been a request to vote by secret ballot, we would need to proceed to a show of hands vote to decide whether to go ahead with a secret ballot or to keep our normal default method of voting, unless there's consensus in the board on Israel's proposal for a secret ballot.
Thank you. I recognise that Saudi Arabia and Egypt are asking for the call, and I will go to them. I suppose what the legal counsel is saying, if we have consensus of the board to go to a secret ballot, then we don't have to have a show of hands. And so I would perhaps ask any delegation who opposes a secret ballot to put their flag up to indicate that. I just want to check whether Saudi Arabia and Egypt, okay, so with the indulgence of Saudi Arabia and Egypt, I'd just like to go to Somalia, if it's on the question of a secret ballot, and particularly blocking consensus. Somalia.
Thank you, Chair. We oppose the secret ballot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I think procedurally that means that we will move to a show of hands. Now, I know Saudi Arabia and Egypt have their flags up, but given we have a procedural request for a show of hands to determine a secret ballot, I just checked with legal counsel. My intention would be to go straight to that. So, okay, before we do that, we will take the 3 flags that are up. Saudi Arabia, followed by Egypt. Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Chair. We oppose the secret ballot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Egypt.
Same, Excellency. We ask for a roll call. Thank you.
Sorry, Egypt, can I just clarify? You're asking for a roll call on the question of whether we have a secret ballot?
No. We just asked not to have a secret ballot, and we just asked for a roll call, a recorded voting, not by the show of hands, to be shown on the screen. Thank you.
I would just throw to legal counsel, but I think this has moved on because we have had one member request a secret ballot. So if you think about the 3 methods of voting,
Yeah.
we have show of hands, roll call, secret
Exactly.
ballot.
Yeah.
We have requested a secret ballot from one member. We have ascertained that there is not consensus on that. So we are seeking to have a vote on whether there is a secret ballot. I note you would rather have a roll call, but I think we have to determine the question of whether we have a secret ballot. I'll go to legal counsel.
Yes, I think first we deal with the question of a secret ballot, which has been proposed, and we do that clearly through a show of hands, given there's no consensus. If that is not accepted, and so we are not proceeding by a secret ballot, then indeed your request for a roll call vote would be noted, and as I said, if one member of the board seeks a roll call vote, then our rules would allow us to move straight to that rather than a show of hands. But I think the first question is to decide whether we're going to have a secret ballot or not.
Thank you. I recognise Israel.
Thank you, Chair. Our reading to the article that just was read by the legal office is that the board's decision to make a decision about having a secret ballot or not having a secret ballot is done for all the items on the agenda, not budgetary ones, not ad hoc per item. This is our reading to it. It's not that we should raise this question every time there's a secret ballot presented at any different item at the agenda.
I'll ask legal counsel to comment. No, so I think his comment, sorry, I don't want to I'll paraphrase you. You are interpreting Article 57 as giving essentially an unfettered right to have a secret ballot without a show of hands. Is that what you're requesting? You arguing?
Thank you, Chair. What I'm saying is that this question should be discussed at the very beginning of the board, taking a decision for all relevant items, not budgetary ones as indicated in the rules, rather than taking it ad hoc per item when this question is raised. Since we haven't discussed this matter in the very beginning, allowing or not allowing a member state for calling for a secret ballot, it should not be stopped at this point and having a decision ad hoc. We don't have any other different reading for this article.
I acknowledge Egypt has put the flag up, but I'd just like the legal counsel to respond to that because it's a question of WHO law effectively, as I understand it, whether you treat the Article 57 request on an item-by-item basis or across the whole thing. So I go to legal counsel.
Yes. It would certainly be open to the board to settle this matter at the beginning of the board if it wished to do so. But Rule 57 simply says that in addition to the cases which are otherwise provided for in the rules of procedure, the board may vote on any matter by secret ballot if it has previously so decided by a majority of those present and voting. And as you say, providing that that doesn't apply to budgetary questions. That does not say that it has to be done at the beginning of the meeting. It doesn't give any indication of timing. What it does say is that a secret ballot can only take place after a decision has been made by the board. In the past, there has been no discussion of this at any board meeting as a general matter. There have been relatively few occasions in the past where a secret ballot has been requested ad hoc, as you put it. And it has been handled in this way in accordance with the ordinary meaning of Rule 57.
I recognise Egypt has withdrawn your... Have you withdrawn your...
His Excellency, the legal counsel has made it very clear to the EB member. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. Israel, do you wish to come back?
Yes, Chair. The rule, again, if I'm reading it correctly, it says previously so decided. It haven't been previously so decided. Therefore, at this stage, when the secret ballot is requested, we should proceed to a secret ballot rather than discussing the possibility or the plausibility if we can or we cannot.
Yeah. I will go again to the legal counsel. Yeah. I mean, I will give my interpretation.
Thank you. If that is the interpretation that you put on this and previously requires that you have done so earlier in the meeting and not just before the decision is taken, then that would mean you could not go to a secret ballot at all, because you can only proceed to a secret ballot, except in those other areas where it has been previously so decided. So if you wish to interpret the word previously as meaning you have to have done so at the beginning of the meeting, which I would advise is not the way we have interpreted it in the past, but if you did want to take that interpretation, then a secret ballot would not be open to you at this stage.
I must say, and we'll come to the two delegations with hands up, as chair, I would rule the previously so decided there is referring to the show of hands that happens immediately prior to the secret ballot. I think that is a reasonable reading of Article 57. I think that's what the legal counsel is saying. I will go to Egypt and then I will come back to Israel.
Excellency Chair, we have been discussing for the past few days that we have a very, very overpacked and overwhelming agenda. This scenario that we are experiencing here, we have been experiencing in the past EBs. We had the same debate with the same questions, with the same arguments, and each time the legal counsel and his team have been responding the same responses. And in the end, we go for a vote, we vote against the secret ballot, and they lose the vote. And then we proceed with the next step, and we ask for the roll call, and then we win the thing. And then it's the same thing. It's just a waste of time, and it's just procrastination for the whole process. We understand it. So in order to cut the chase, if the legal counsel allow me, if it is okay that Egypt requests for a vote against the secret ballot, let's proceed with that and save some time for the EB. Thank you.
Thanks, Egypt. I am trying to move this along, but I'm also trying to give a fair participation by delegations. As I said before, it's my intention to call the secret ballot for call the show of hands to decide on the question of the secret ballot. I recognise Israel, but I think I intend to do that after this intervention by Israel. Israel. Yes.
If I recall the course of time, things happening now, it's not Israel opposing to move forward. We can move much faster, but it's you who are opposing and others are opposing. Chair, I hear you. If this is what you think it's more suitable, let's do that.
Thank you. I appreciate the consideration. That means we will move to a show of hands. The question, now let me see, what do I... Okay, again, I will move to the legal counsel. I know many of you were here yesterday, but I'll ask the legal counsel to explain the procedure, and I'll give it to legal counsel to explain the procedure.
Thank you. So we are proceeding to a vote on whether to hold a secret ballot on the amendment in Conference Paper 11. The vote will be conducted by way of an unrecorded electronic vote, and I would like to clarify that in an unrecorded vote, no record is kept of which members have voted in favour of or against the proposal. Before the voting begins, delegations will be invited, as soon as the voting is opened, please press the green button if you wish to vote yes, that is in favour of holding a secret ballot. Please press the red button if you wish to vote no, that is against holding a secret ballot, and press the blue button if you wish to abstain. Once the chair declares the vote open, you will have 1 minute to cast your vote. The timer will show on the screen. You may change your vote during that 1 minute but you will not be able to change your vote once the voting has closed. If you do not, for any reason, cast a vote, you will be recorded as absent. Once the Chair has closed the vote after the minute has expired, we will have a short pause and the results will be read out and shown on the screen. If you wish to make a brief statement of explanation of vote afterwards, an opportunity will be given to you to do so. But I would also like to recall that once we have commenced voting, no one may interrupt the voting process except on a point of order in connection with the actual conduct of the vote. Thank you, Chair.
Egypt.
Excellency Chair, I have a question for the legal counsel from our legal counsel. Is it possible that we request that this would be done instead of in a secret voting pattern, that we do it by the show of hands? Over to you, Excellency.
Sorry. Can they change the setting? Can they change the setting to put it up on electronically on the thing? Can they change the setting? Egypt, let me provide a response. And this is actually, I think, a bit of the learning that we have gone through collectively. So at the start of this meeting, we decided to adopt electronic voting. Yesterday, we had a vote by show of hands, which we did electronically. However, as delegates would have seen, the aggregate results were reported, and they were reported, we had them in the Secretariat, but there was no indication on the board, for example, who had voted which way, which is what you would see with a physical show of hands. So I think the practical effect of the voting that happened by show of hands electronically yesterday was that people didn't have visibility of who voted one way or the other, which was not actually the intent. I've asked the Secretariat about whether the system could be modified. I understand in other systems you can do that, so you still vote electronically, but it would recognise the names, which would have the same effect as show of hands. I've been advised that we can't do that at the moment. Therefore, I believe in the spirit of what the rules provide, I'm prepared to use a physical show of hands for this to determine whether there's a secret ballot, because I think that accords with the intent of the rules. Okay.
So we will need a moment to get you the script for the physical show.
Okay. So can I ask that we have a very short suspension for a couple of minutes? The Secretariat was not prepared to give me the instructions for a physical show of hands, so we'll just do that so that we have no legal ambiguity. Oh, sorry. Just before we do, Israel?
I want to save us all time. I will withdraw my request for secret ballot and proceed. It's prolonging the discussion. They're opposing everything as a principle just because Israel is proposing it. It doesn't get us anywhere. Chair, I withdraw my request for a secret ballot. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Israel. Appreciate that. So we will. That request is being withdrawn. There is no longer a request for a secret ballot. Egypt made a request for a roll call. Yes.
Yes, Excellency.
Yes.
Yes, Excellency.
I will just turn to the legal counsel just to check if there's any procedural issue we have to be concerned with calling a roll call.
No, as I indicated before, if one member of the board calls for a roll call, then we proceed by a roll call, which is in this case, a recorded vote where you will indeed see the votes of how they are cast.
Thank you. Therefore, where's my script for a roll call? So thank you. We are proceeding to a vote on the amendment to the draft resolution contained in EB 158 Conf 4 as contained in document EB 158 Conf 11. Furthermore, we have a delegation that's requested a recorded vote. I would now like to give the floor to legal counsel to provide some explanations of the procedure to follow in respect of vote that has been requested. Mr. Walton, you have the floor.
Thank you. And yes, the procedure is slightly different since this is a recorded vote. In accordance with Rule 51 of the Rules of Procedure, the recorded vote will be conducted through electronic means. And what that means is that you will see the names, you see how each member of the board is voting on the screen during the vote, and how each member of the board votes will be recorded. As soon as the voting is open, please press the green button if you wish to vote yes. This is in favour of the amendments in Conference Paper 11. Press the red button if you wish to vote no, that is against the amendments in Conference Paper 11, and press the blue button if you wish to abstain. Once the Chair declares the vote open, as I said before, you will have 1 minute to cast your vote. Everything I said previously about changing your vote and the like remains operative. Once the 1 minute has expired, the Chair will close the vote. There will be a short pause, and we will then display the vote results, and the Chair will read out the results. If you wish to make brief statements by way of explanation of vote, there will be an opportunity to do so afterwards. Finally, let me recall that once voting has begun, it may not be interrupted except on a point of order in connection with the actual conduct of the vote. And if you notice any irregularities, please do raise them before the results are announced. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, legal counsel. Are there any questions? I see no questions. Therefore, I will put the question to the Executive Board. Do you support the amendment in Conf 11? That is, do you agree to that amendment? Yes, if you agree to the amendment. No, if you don't agree to the amendment. Voting is now open. There are 20 seconds remaining to vote. Thank you. The results from the voting, there were 34 members entitled to vote, 4 members were absent, there was 1 vote in favour, there were 5 abstention and 24 number of votes against. The amendment is therefore rejected by 24 votes to 1 with 5 abstentions. I will just ask legal counsel to advise the next step, which I believe is to move to the other conference paper. Legal counsel.
Thank you. So now we move to the decision on draft resolution in document 158 Conf 4. The first question is for the chair to establish whether we can proceed by consensus on this proposal as unamended.
Sorry, just to be clear, without this amendment. Okay.
So we now go to the proposed decision.
Yep.
Without the amendment because we rejected the
Before we get to conference paper 4. Conference paper is the decision.
Conference paper 4 was the amendment. Conference paper 11 was the amendment.
I know, and 4 was the original decision. Okay, so we now have before us conference paper 4, which has not been amended. And the question is, well, do we have consensus on this before we consider whether we need to move to a vote? So I'd ask delegations to take the floor if they do not support conference paper 4. Israel.
Thank you, Chair. No, we oppose the paper and we call for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. On that basis, I think we will go to a vote. Obviously, well, as we've just discussed, the starting point on a vote is a show of hands. I just will check with the committee as to whether there is anyone who objects to the process of resolving it to be via show of hands. I recognise Egypt.
Yes, thank you, Excellency Chair. We just request the same. We just request a roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Therefore, we will move to a roll call. I would just ask the legal counsel whether he wants to add anything. We've just explained the process from here. Unless any delegation has a question, I would propose that we move straight to the roll call. I see no objection. Therefore, we have conf paper 4 in front of us. If you are wishing to vote to accept that decision, you would push the green button. If you want to oppose that decision, you would push the red button. If you wish to abstain, you will push the blue button. Assume that is clear. The motion is to accept the proposal in Conf 4. We will have, as described before, 60 seconds to do the voting, and there'll be an opportunity to explain any vote you made if you'd like afterwards. So I now declare the voting open. There is 20 seconds remaining to vote. Thank you. This is the results of the vote on whether to adopt conference paper 4. Members entitled to vote, 34. Members absent, 3. Number of votes in favour, 26. Abstentions, 4. Number of votes against, 1. The decision is therefore approved by 26 votes to 1 with 4 abstentions. The decision is therefore adopted. Before I close this item, I will just see if anyone wishes to make an explanation of their vote. I recognise Israel. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the member states of the board. The message is well received. When it comes to Israel, there are endless funds and resources for duplicity and exceed reporting. The member of the board are saying that when it comes to Israel, they want to discuss 3 times rather than 1. So please spare us the comments made pretending to care about the interest of valuable time. If anyone here actually cared about the health situation in Gaza, someone would surely condemn the systematic use of ambulances by Hamas to move terrorists and weapons, as Israel revealed once again just yesterday. The deliberate strategy of using medical facilities to military purposes. Israel remains committed to facilitating humanitarian activity in Gaza through approved humanitarian organizations in order to prevent abuse of humanitarian work framework by terrorist organizations. We urge all members to call the end of abuse of humanitarian organization by Hamas and call for the organization to check who they employ. Effective humanitarian coordination is based on transparency, professional engagement, and good faith. The continue withholding the basic staff information by certain NGOs raises serious questions about the involvement of those organization staff with Hamas. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. I also see that Palestine is looking to take the floor. Palestine, you have the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. أود أن أتوجه.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank all countries who have voted in favor of this draft resolution. This reaffirms that Palestine is still in an emergency situation. We need all of you. We need your organization. We need your efforts, the WHO efforts to improve the health conditions in Palestine. Yesterday, a Palestinian was killed while he was trying to save other people who had been injured by these continued Israeli attacks. Our action must not be politicized. It must be done for humanitarian purposes. There are lies being spread. WHO should consider the epidemic of lies pursued by the occupying power. Thank you.
Egypt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's a very brief 35 seconds maximum. Egypt categorically rejects allegations that hospitals and ambulances in Gaza are being used systematically for military purposes. Such claims are unproven, politicized, and have been repeatedly used to justify attacks on protected medical facilities. Under international humanitarian law, hospitals and ambulances enjoy special protection. Any claim to the contrary requires independent verification, which hasn't been once provided. What is documented is the systematic destruction of Gaza's health system, hospitals bombed, ambulances attacked, and medical teams targeted while saving lives. This is a grave violation of medical neutrality and international law. Egypt calls for an immediate halt to attacks on health facilities, full humanitarian access, and independent investigations into all violations against medical services in Gaza. Healthcare is not a battlefield. Thank you, Chair.
I see no further calls for the floor. Therefore, I say this concludes our considerations of agenda item 21. As this brings us to the end of the items under Protect Health, I would also like to close item 5, which was left open on Friday, seeking further feedback from the Secretariat, on the report on the Standing Committee on Health Emergency Prevention, Preparedness and Response. I see no objection, so I'm going to close item 5. We shall now consider the following grouping of items. Item 22 on strengthening rehabilitation and health systems, item 23 on wellbeing and health promotion, and item 26 on economics of health for all. Could I just ask people leaving to leave as quietly as possible? Thank you. In relation to item 22, the relevant report is contained in document EB 158/26, Strengthening Rehabilitation and Health Systems. The Board is invited to note the report and to provide guidance on the questions contained in paragraph 17. In relation to item 23, The relevant reports are contained in document EB 158/27 on wellbeing and health promotion and in document EB 158/28 on the outcome of the WHO Commission on Social Connection. The Board is invited to note both reports and to provide guidance on the questions contained in paragraph 18 of document EB 158/27 and paragraph 15 of document EB 158/28. The Board also has before it one conference paper which contains a draft decision recommending a resolution to the Health Assembly. It is contained in document EB 158/conf/1 on radiation and health, strengthening global protection, preparedness and responses. The financial and administrative implications are contained in document EB 158/conf/1 add 1. In relation to item 26, the relevant report is contained in document EB 158/31. The Board is invited to note the report and consider a draft decision to recommend that the Health Assembly adopt the draft strategy on the economics of health for all, 2026 to 2030, as set out in the annex of document EB 158/31. The financial and administrative implications are contained in document EB 158/31 add 1. The floor is now open for discussion. Again, I would suggest EB members seek the call. If non-EB member states could refrain from listing, it does make it easier for us to manage the meeting. I also note that there will be some non-state actor constituency statements which will be interspersed after the EB members have finished their interventions or their first round of interventions, and among member states not represented on the Board. The floor is now open for discussion. I give the floor to Cabo Verde, followed by the Central African Republic. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director General, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Executive Board, we have the honour to make the statement on behalf of the African region. We'd like to thank the Secretariat for presenting the conclusions of the WHO Committee on Social Links within the framework of Agenda Item 23. The work of the committee confirms that social connections is a vital social determinant and determinant of global health and mental health of the population. Social isolation and solitude are a growing risk to public health, with document results on morbidity, mortality, social cohesion and resilience of societies. Strengthening social connections must be recognized as a priority of public health. For Cabo Verde, a country marked by strong community tradition, but also facing rapid social transformation, increased mobility of populations, and aging of the population, these conclusions are of particular importance. They recall that promotion of well-being cannot be dissociated from solidarity, social inclusion, and support for the most vulnerable groups. We, the African region, fully support the approach of the committee, which calls for integrating social links in a cross-cutting manner in public policies beyond the strictly health sector, strengthening communities in line with the relevant resolution of WHO Regional Committee of 28th of August 2023 on these issues, the creation of an environment which is propitious and also social interaction, as well as the fight against stigmatization and exclusion, are crucial. for lasting health and well-being and mental health. We also highlight the central role of PHC as a platform for early identification of situations of social isolation, and in order to respond together with social services, community organizations, and civil society to the issues that arise. We welcome the WHO leadership and support the recommendations that the committee that seek to strengthen research, solid evidence, and the sharing of best practices, as well as technical support to the member states, in particular to countries with limited resources, as well as SIDS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to the Central African Republic, followed by Barbados.
I have the honor to make the statement on behalf of the 47 members of the WHO African region. We welcome the drafting of the strategy on economics for health for all for 2026-2030. We fully support the vision carried forth by this strategy that recognizes that health is not a cost to be contained, but a vital investment, both the result and the driver of inclusive, equitable, and sustainable development. This approach is particularly pertinent to our region, which continues to face major structural limitations, weakness in terms of domestic finances, dependence on foreign aid, increased debt burden, climate vulnerabilities, humanitarian and health crisis in a context marked by economic and geopolitical tensions. In order to strengthen the impact of this strategy, the region would like to make the following observations. The African Group highlights the need to take ownership of the strategy through mobilization of all institutions, in particular the Ministry of Finances, Planning, Labor, Environment, territorial communities. A genuine intersectoral approach. The African region stresses the importance of bolstering equitable mobilization of national resources through tax policies that are favorable to health, prioritizing vulnerable populations, and reducing out-of-pocket expenses in order to move towards UHC. The African Group calls for priority to be given to investment to community health, which is vital for health systems. Our region highlights the need to align this with national priorities in line with the principles of the Lusaka Agenda, which was based on the Paris Declaration. We call on WHO to strengthen their support in terms of production of data, national capacity, in order for the strategy to be translated to concrete, measurable actions adapted to national reality. We take note of the report and support the adoption of the strategy by the Executive Board in line with the draft decision proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Barbados, followed by Lebanon.
Honourable Chair, Barbados fully commends the Secretariat for these comprehensive reports. Our commitment to the Rehabilitation 2030 agenda is firm. As of 2025, we have established a National Committee on Rehabilitation to develop a strategic roadmap and recommendations for a dedicated National Rehabilitation Centre. Acknowledging the global challenge of data paucity, we support the call for baseline data collection. Given current financial constraints, we endorse leveraging WHO collaborating centers to bridge technical gaps and support postponing the first global status report to ensure its ultimate quality and impact. On well-being and social connection, health promotion must be a whole-of-government endeavor. In Barbados, our National Workplace Health Wellness Committee, chaired by a government minister, serves as our model for driving productivity through health. Social connection is not a soft issue. It is a public health priority essential for resilience. We call for coordinated global action to embed social connection across all policy areas to protect our youth and aging populations. On the economics of health for all, Barbados welcomes a strategy to reorient global economies towards the well-being of people and the planet. We view the commercial determinants of health as a primary policy lever for this reorientation. We strongly support development of the first WHO Global Report on the Commercial Determinants of Health. This report is vital to clarify terminology for unified global understanding, synthesize evidence, focus on the unique challenges of small island developing states, and provide recommendations to help member states manage conflicts of interest. For Barbados, this is not theoretical. The Task Force on Fiscal Policy for Health, co-chaired by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, advocates for health taxes on tobacco, alcohol, and sugary beverages to combat the NCD epidemic. The process in the development of the global report must be a transparent, evidence-led process that adheres strictly to FENSA to safeguard its normative integrity. The views of all actors must be taken into account. Barbados looks forward to this report serving as the authoritative framework for collective action. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Barbados, followed by Lebanon.
Me by Lebanon. By Lebanon. By
Was
Lebanon.
Barbados there?
He's sleeping.
Apologies, Lebanon. I thought Barbados was there for. Lebanon, you have the floor.
Esteemed Chair, esteemed members, I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the Eastern Mediterranean region. Economics of Health for All reframes health as an investment in resilience, equity, and sustainable development. In the Eastern Mediterranean region, protracted conflicts have weakened service delivery, high out-of-pocket spending pushes households into poverty, and sustainable financing is limited by fiscal constraints. By integrating health into macroeconomic planning, member states can expand fiscal space and strengthen financial protection, supporting regional priorities on universal health coverage and health security. It provides a framework for mobilizing innovative financing, including through Islamic social finance, and for building governance structures that position health as a shared societal goal. Health has been embedded in economic transformation across diverse contexts in the region. In Jordan, measuring health's economic value beyond GDP informed primary care reforms, while in Lebanon, capacity building helped sustain services amid economic collapse. Financing innovations such as Morocco's Health Solidarity Funds have reduced reliance on out-of-pocket spending, while Saudi Arabia's digital health expansion demonstrated how technological innovation can advance public priorities when guided by equity. We recommend that member states adopt evidence-based financing policies, expand fiscal space through innovative mechanisms, and strengthen governance for accountability. The Secretariat is urged to facilitate regional dialogue, provide technical guidance and support capacity building to ensure health is prioritized in economic planning and health systems recovery, reform and transformation strategies across the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I go to the Solomon Islands, followed by Israel.
Honourable Chair, the draft strategy on the economics of health for all presents a transformative vision for integrating health and well-being into the core of economic policy making. For Pacific Island countries which face unique geographical, economic and climate challenges, the strategy offers both significant opportunities and notable concerns. The strategy's emphasis on environmental sustainability and equity aligns strongly with the priorities of many Pacific Island nations. PICs are on the front line of climate crisis, which directly impacts health through food security, waterborne diseases, and displacement. The strategies call for economic policies that protect natural resources and promote intergenerational well-being supports the PIC's existing commitments to climate-resilient health systems. While the strategy outlines ambitious actions, PICs may face capacity constraints in implementation. When Pacific Island nations have limited technical expertise in health economics, cross-sectoral governance, and data systems, Strategic Direction 4 of the report rightly highlights the need for capacity building, but PICs will require tailored and sustained external support to develop these competencies. Additionally, the reliance on domestic resource mobilization, such as taxation and national insurance, made challenging for small island nations, informal economies with narrow tax bases and high dependency on external aid. The strategy on economics for all provides a timely and principled framework for orienting economies toward health and well-being. For Pacific Island countries, it offers a pathway to foster sustainable development in line with regional values and priorities. We therefore support the strategy and urge member states and partners to ensure its implementation is inclusive, context-sensitive, and adequately resourced to enable all nations, including small island states, to realize health for all. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Israel, followed by Bulgaria.
Thank you, Chair. On rehabilitation, WHO's quality indicators can be used to promote valuable strategies such as expanding qualified multidisciplinary rehabilitation personnel and making use of advanced technologies. Having said that, while the choice of chronic low back pain as a representative health problem from which to derive indicators is reasonable, we must acknowledge that rehabilitation intervention in many such cases is limited in scope, particularly with regards to the involvement of different health professions. Further, while this choice well suits community care, it is less applicable to hospital care. We recommend incorporating additional assessments, particularly those pertaining to acute and complex disorders. On well-being and health promotion, Israel welcomes both reports on the topic. A capacity-building platform or digital tool to assist in calculating economic and cost-benefit of country-level health promotion policies would be helpful for member states. The Best Buys reports have been helpful. However, we must further advance digital abilities to calculate potential effects of policies and programming. With regards to the WHO Commission on Social Connection, Israel sees great value in the Healthy Cities Network, which effectively integrates and strengthens health promotion programming. We urge the inclusion of guidelines on interventions to reduce loneliness and social isolation, and the consideration of optimizing such programs through targeting specific population groups and adapting interventions in light of rural-urban differentiations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Bulgaria, followed by Panama.
Chair, I have the honor of speaking on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. The candidate countries North Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Albania, Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, and Georgia, as well as Armenia, aligned themselves with this statement. We welcome the reports by the Director General and we commend the WHO for the progress made in advancing the well-being agenda. Unfortunately, promoting health and well-being is often considered a secondary matter rather than a political priority. However, resilient and thriving societies are built on the health and well-being of their populations. Therefore, we must firmly place well-being and health promotion on the agenda of policymakers across all sectors and levels of governance. Strong intersectional platforms that actively support the development of well-being societies are essential, as are bottom-up initiatives and community-driven solutions. Promoting well-being requires a comprehensive lifelong health promotion and prevention approach that recognizes the close interconnections between physical, mental, and social health. The European Union is committed to this approach through initiatives such as the recent Safe Hearts Plan. To truly promote health and ensure well-being for all, we must address all well-known determinants of health. Most importantly, we must regulate the commercialization of health services and build robust and accessible public health systems that include health promotion as an essential pillar. Disadvantaged groups should not experience poorer health outcomes because of limited available financial resources or other vulnerabilities. In addition, if you want to address today's public health challenges, we need to acknowledge that all stakeholders play a role in supporting well-being and encourage, within national and, where relevant, regional contexts, as appropriate, legislation and regulation, policies and actions regarding marketing strategies that encourage unhealthy lifestyles. Social isolation and loneliness are urgent public health issues that affect people across all ages and demographic categories and are linked to mental health problems and NCDs. WHO, particularly the flagship report of the WHO Commission on Social Connection, provides actionable guidance to address loneliness and social isolation and foster social connection. The report envisions a future in which the promotion of social connection has the potential to improve well-being, reduce preventable death, and boost education and economic resilience. These recommendations and implementation models serve as a valuable foundation. Now, concrete action needs to follow. We applaud the WHO for its leadership and convening role in this area and appeal to WHO to continue its work on social connection as a core component of mental health promotion and resilient person-centered health systems. The European Union and its 27 member states are fully committed to achieving together with WHO, well-being for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Panama, followed by Cameroon.
Buenos días, gracias.
A very good morning. Thank you, Chair. The promotion of well-being and health are essential to achieve quality of life. Institutionalizing well-being as a cross-cutting focus of governance, adopting an approach to enable us to adopt inter-institutional and intersectoral policies is vital, provided it's led by ministries of health. Well-being should be incorporated into national planning processes, the budget and evaluation of public policies, guaranteeing public participation, including in the preparedness, response and recovery in the face of emergencies and the governance of available digital systems. It's vital to promote a culture that prioritizes health promotion, equity and community-based participation in the development, in capacity building and good practices, ensuring effective implementation and measurable implementation of the well-being program. Panama thanks the Commission on Social Connection for its work, and it will submit its recommendations in writing. Advancing towards health for all isn't just a question of increased investment in public health, but it's a question of a structural transformation of the economy, the budget and public governance. Health is a strategic investment in economic development, social equity and fiscal sustainability. We welcome the decision on the economics of health for all. We recognize its alignment with the program budget 2026-27, designed to strengthen the economic evidence base and sustainable financing. We underscore that this is a strategic opportunity to consolidate technical capacities in economic analysis and the cost effectiveness of health interventions, moving towards results-based budgeting linked to the correct allocation of resources to equity and fiscal sustainability. It strengthens health governance and the financial protection of households through strong coverage and access to health services, and a commitment of government to policies based on evidence, results and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Cameroon, followed by Nepal.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving us the floor. Cameroon endorses the statements made by the African region on these issues. We commend the DG for his report. We take note of the progress made in the respective areas of rehabilitation, health systems, promotional well-being, and economics of health. Africa has made significant progress with the adoption of a strategy on rehabilitation that has made it possible to adopt national plans on rehabilitation. We note that access to rehabilitation services is still insufficient, with strong demand due to NCDs. For this reason, Cameroon advocates for strengthening financing of the strategy by the states regarding promotion of well-being and health. Social isolation and loneliness are increasingly prevalent. The high rates are found in Africa, 24% in particular. These problems are signals that are of great concern in terms of mental health. Therefore, mental health and well-being are at the heart of the health system. We encourage the drafting of acceptable multi-sectoral approaches to promote health and well-being. Turning to the economics of health, more than half of the global population still do not have access to vital health services, and 1 of 4 people has financial difficulties linked to high health-related responses. We advocate for the commitment of member states to drafting strategies to mobilize domestic resources to finance health through tax policies, decentralization, and public-private partnerships. Lastly, we take note of the report and we reaffirm our strong support for the strategic guidelines of WHO. We stand ready to implement various programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Nepal, followed by Thailand.
Thank you, Chair. Nepal thanks the Secretariat for the report under item 22 and item 23. Strengthening rehabilitation within health systems and well-being and health promotion are central to achieving universal health coverage and Sustainable Development Goals. Advancing well-being requires sustained multi-sectoral action and addresses the behavioral, social, and environmental determinants shaping population health. Nepal has expanded community-based and decentralized rehabilitation services, enabling earlier access for underserved and remote population. For Nepal, integrating well-being into PSC and USC reforms through essential service packages, counseling, and behavior change support remains a national priority. In this context, to accelerate global progress, Nepal calls on the WHO to prioritize policy directions. First, on developing clearer operational guidance for integrating rehabilitation across all levels of health systems, including emergencies, and the guidance to help countries embed health promotion and well-being across PSC, USC, and multi-sectoral policies. Second, on strengthening global and regional support for workforce development with a focus on competencies and for community-based and multidisciplinary care. And third, on advancing digital rehabilitation tools and data standards to improve access, monitoring, and service quality. Nepal remains committed to building resilient, equitable, and people-centered health system. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Thailand, followed by Ukraine.
Thank you, Chair. On item 22, Thailand emphasizes that rehabilitation is a pillar of universal health coverage. While acknowledging chronic back pain as a vital tracer, we insist that indicators remain evidence-based and adaptable to national context. We advocate for postponing the first global status report to allow for the validation of effective coverage methodologies against national realities, ensuring practical frameworks and robust baseline data. Moving to item 23, well-being and health promotion, Thailand identifies 3 institutional priorities. First, whole of society governance, integrating well-being into national policy through executive evidence-informed body. Second, holistic frameworks incorporating lifestyle medicine, health and mental health literacy and resilience. Third, secure information system and appropriate social media regulation to address misinformation. Together, this will shape actionable national strategies for resilient well-being society. Moving to item 26, Thailand strongly supports the economic health for all strategy, recognizing health not as a cost, but a vital investment for sustainable growth. We endorse the 5 strategic directions, especially aligning economic policy with health outcomes and strengthening economic competencies among health professionals to engage finance sectors and drive a whole-of-government approach. We look forward to the Secretariat technical guidance to operationalize this agenda and stand ready to share our experience demonstrating that health is the foundation of a prosperous economy. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Ukraine, followed by Poland.
Dear colleagues, Ukraine thanks the Secretariat for the report of strengthening rehabilitation and health system. We support the shift from counting access to measuring effective coverage. At the same time, we ask WHO to strengthen the science and policy relevance of this approach. First, about tracer condition. Relying on the global tracer like chronic low back pain raises 2 research allocation risks. There are 2 risks. First, a complexity gap. Chronic low back pain is a limited proxy for the multidisciplinary high-intensity rehabilitation pathway needed after stroke or complex trauma. Rehabilitation should not be reduced to physiotherapy because WHO defines rehabilitation as a set of interventions to optimize function and typically delivered by a multidisciplinary team. Second, there is a priority distortion. A target focus on low back pain may unintentionally incentivize low-intensive service while under-deserving in specialized rehabilitation that reduce long-term disability in the most vulnerable patients. Therefore, we propose a multi-tracer model with low back pain as the baseline and standardized models for stroke, traumatic injury, and amputation. On measurement validity, we note that utilization questions were tested on a limited sample. Before indication become a global target, we need cross-cultural validation and clear risk adjustment, including consistent application of the FHUDAS-based quality measures. On research efficiency, we support the proposed indicator across governance, financing, workforce, information and service, but measurement must be low burden and high value. It should be integrated into existing household survey and information systems, so it does not divert research from care. Also, Ukraine supports World Health Assembly 76.6 to integrate rehabilitation at all levels, including primary health care. We recognize Secretariat capacity constraint if a full global status report is delayed. We support an interim update in 2026 using WHO collaborating centers and partners. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Poland, followed by Haiti.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delivering the statement on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. The candidate countries North Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, Albania, Ukraine, Republic of Moldova and Georgia, as well as Armenia, align themselves with this statement. The European Union welcomes the report by the Director General and the draft strategy on the economics of health for all. We thank the Secretariat for the engagement with Member States in their efforts in translating Resolution WHA 77.13 into a practical framework for action. For the EU, the Economics of Health for All strategy demonstrates the importance of greater policy coherence across sectors. Health outcomes, sustainable economic growth, social cohesion and environmental sustainability are deeply interconnected. Strong and well-functioning health systems are an essential part of inclusive and resilient economies. They can enable participation in education and labour markets for all, protect people from financial shocks, and strengthen social cohesion and trust. Fragile health systems, by contrast, undermine productivity, increase inequality, and leave societies vulnerable both to poverty and to systemic shocks. We therefore welcome the strategy's strong emphasis on the whole-of-government approach with cross-sectoral collaboration and country leadership in accordance with national context and priorities. We note that the strategy has been developed with due regard to guiding principles such as social participation, equity and gender equality. It is important to stress that the strategy constitutes a voluntary menu of actions from which the Member States may choose those that respond best to their respective needs. We are convinced that the strategy can provide useful guidance for Member States to consider integrating health considerations into relevant public policies and to demonstrate the value of health as an investment through improved evidence and well-being frameworks in accordance with national contexts and priorities. Strengthened dialogue across ministries, civil society, affected communities and the private sector, while making sure there are no conflicts of interest, will be critical for the success of this process. To ensure success of these country-led processes, WHO has a crucial role to play. We welcome the Secretariat's commitment to support Member States through guidelines, technical assistance and the facilitation of the exchange of experience across regions. We would welcome an additional opportunity for those Member States who have not been able to submit comments earlier to send written feedback before finalizing the text of the strategy. With these considerations, the European Union and its Member States support the draft decision before the Board and look forward to working with the Secretariat and partners to advance an economics of health for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Haiti, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Excellence.
Your Excellencies, Haiti thanks the Director General for the report, which underscores the impact of prolonged crises, insecurity, complex human emergencies on the health of populations and the continuity of health services. And that's very true in Haiti. We are affected by instability, economic and other emergencies, and our health system has come under tremendous pressure. Access to health care has been disrupted, access to essential medicines, growing mental health and psychosocial needs, illustrate how crises undermine health and exacerbate inequalities. Primary health care, the resilience of local health services, and the persistence of healthcare workers are absolute priorities, taking into account communicable and non-communicable diseases. This must be a priority even in emergencies. We underscore the role of WHO as a coordinator and call for greater international solidarity, more predictable financing, and technical support adapted to national contexts in order to strengthen health systems sustainably. Haiti remains committed to work with WHO and partners to building a more resilient, integrated, and community-based health system. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the Republic of Korea, followed by Norway.
Thank you, Chair. Republic of Korea supports the Secretariat's efforts to respond to rapidly increasing rehabilitation needs and to integrate rehabilitation into essential health services. The integration of standardized tools proposed by WHO, such as WHODAS, into National Health Information System will enable the formulation of effective data-driven policies. To strengthen rehabilitation within health systems, it is essential to expand rehabilitation service across all levels of care, from primary to tertiary care. The Republic of Korea is strengthening its rehabilitation service delivery system across the continuum of care, which is stretched from the acute phase to post-acute recovery and community-based rehabilitation. In addition, Republic of Korea welcomes two reports prepared by the Secretariat on well-being and health promotion. To embed the issues of well-being and social connection into national governance and translate them into action, a solid legal and institutional foundation is essential. We have enacted the Act on the Prevention and Management of Lonely Deaths, legally defining the responsibilities of the central government and local governments in strengthening social connections. At the international level, we have supported the development of WHO guidelines on intervention to reduce social isolation and loneliness. Also, to address well-being and social connection in an integrated manner alongside other health agendas, the mental health agenda must be mainstreamed. In this regard, we have incorporated mental health and suicide prevention as one of the core priority areas of comprehensive plans for promoting national health. The Republic of Korea appreciates such efforts made by WHO and will support its continued mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now go to Norway, followed by Brunei Darussalam.
Thank you, Chair. On item 22, Norway supports the Secretariat's proposal on how to prioritize the work going forward and to postpone the publication of the status report on rehabilitation in health systems. On item 23, Norway appreciates WHO's leadership in advancing global well-being and has many lessons to share from our new cross-sectoral national well-being strategy and roadmap. Norway also supports WHO and the Commission's work on social connection as a key determinant of health. We encourage WHO to integrate the work into existing programs and policies, engage civil society, and strengthen inclusive local communities. On item 26, Norway sees the economics of health for all strategy as highly relevant both globally and nationally, and we support the draft decision. We strongly support the emphasis on whole of government and cross-sectoral public health approaches, and in particular the focus on strengthened cooperation between the health and finance sector. We would value more information about how the strategy is aligned to the well-being economy approach, what distinguishes them, and how they are integrated to build on and reinforce each other. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Brunei Darussalam, followed by Chile.
Thank you, Chair. Brunei Darussalam thanks the Secretariat for the reports on the combined agenda items. On agenda item 22, we fully support the direction of the report, including the emphasis on integrating rehabilitation across the life course and within primary health care, universal health coverage, and preparedness for and response to health emergencies, as well as the phased approach. Establishing a robust and realistic baseline in development of global rehabilitation targets and indicators for 2030 is essential. We thus encourage that Secretariat to prioritize feasible and meaningful indicators that can be implemented across diverse health system contexts. On agenda item on well-being and health promotion, the growing burden of NCDs, a rapidly aging population, and lifestyle-related risk factors is placing increasing pressure not only on our health, but also financial and social systems. We further acknowledge the value of multi-sectoral approaches in strengthening health promotion and disease prevention efforts that support healthy lifestyles, mental well-being, and healthy aging, including the use of digital platforms. Brunei Darussalam welcomes WHO continued support at the country level, including sharing tools, good practices, and peer learning platforms in ensuring that the global guidance can be effectively adapted to national contexts and priorities. Brunei Darussalam further welcomes the draft strategy on economics of health for all. For health to be truly for all, we must shift the narrative from health as an expense to health as a high-yield investment. As such, we urge the Secretariat to prioritize institutional strengthening and training programs, including fiscal policy toolkits and HTA platforms, alongside normative advice to ensure small states can perform their own economic modeling. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Chile, followed by Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, Chile wishes to thank the Director General for the reports, which clearly reflect the progress made by the organization in promoting well-being and health, and in dealing with the social connection as a key determinant of health. We, in particular, welcome the comprehensive approach and the evidence-based approach in accordance with the mandate provided by member states and the 2030 agenda. We wish to commend the WHO Commission on Social Connection on its rigorous and inclusive work. The report From Loneliness to Social Connection constitutes a historic milestone in making more visible the impact of loneliness and social isolation, and proposing a tangible framework including public policies, interventions, research, and measurable targets. And it strengthens the social connection, which we believe is important not only for physical and mental health, but contributing to more resilient, cohesive, and equitable societies. Chile also welcomes the progress made in implementing the global framework on well-being, which promotes whole-of-government and whole-of-society approaches and enables us to go beyond traditional indicators, incorporating dimensions such as inclusion, sustainability, and the quality of life of people. We believe that that's an approach which is a solid basis for guiding transformative public policies at national and local levels. As a member state of the WHO Commission on Social Connection, as one of the promoters of the first resolution of WHO on this issue, Chile reiterates its commitment to continue to advance with this agenda both nationally and in multilateral fora. Thank you.
Thank you. The next country on the list is Egypt, member state. I don't see anyone behind the Egyptian flag. So at this stage, I will go to Zimbabwe, followed by Somalia.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe welcomes the report of the Director General and recognizes that non-communicable diseases remain a global growing concern, driven in large part by lifestyle and behavioral risk factors. Addressing this burden requires a whole-of-government and whole-of-society approach. In Zimbabwe, we are advancing health promotion through multi-sectoral action, including strengthened coordination mechanisms that bring together key sectors to generate evidence and guide policy responses. We are also promoting workplace wellness across government, recognizing the importance of healthy public institutions in shaping healthier societies. At community level, health promotion messages on NCD prevention are being integrated into existing programs with a strong focus on inclusion, equity, and accessibility. including the use of multiple local languages. Preventive screening and early detection implemented in partnership with stakeholders remain central to raising awareness and linking people to care. With regard to the recommendations in the report, Zimbabwe supports efforts to strengthen ethics-based governance, sustainability, and public trust as foundations for well-being and health promotion. We also commend WHO for aligning its work with the other United Nations agencies, reinforcing coherence across the UN system. In responding to the guidance sought by the Secretariat, Zimbabwe emphasizes the importance of multi-sectoral consultations in shaping effective policies, building on existing national structures, and strengthening institutions across government. I thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Somalia.
Esteemed Chair, Your Excellencies, Director General, I am delivering this statement on behalf of the Eastern Mediterranean region. In 2021, an estimated 190 million people in the Eastern Mediterranean region had conditions that could have benefited from rehabilitation. This figure will rise with population aging, increasing non-communicable diseases, and the impact of conflict and other emergencies. Despite its critical role in essential health services and universal health coverage, rehabilitation remains a low priority with access inequalities, weak integration into health planning, and fragmented governance and information systems. Nevertheless, countries have made progress in both development and emergency contexts. Progress and a national capacity to meet rehabilitation needs should be assessed through agreed indicators. Technical and policy guidance is needed to implement, adopt, and use rehabilitation indicators and effective coverage measures. These include guidance on integrating rehabilitation indicators within the existing health information systems, household surveys, prioritizing tracer conditions within country and regional contexts, and using the data to inform policy planning and quality improvement. Additional input could address mechanisms for regional and country-level collaboration to mitigate capacity and resource constraint and ensure sustainability, particularly in fragile and resource-constrained settings. We encourage member states to support baseline data collection, integrate rehabilitation indicators into national information systems, and engage stakeholders to measure effective coverage and urge the Secretariat to prioritize feasible indicators, leverage partnerships, and adopt a phased approach to target setting in line with resource constraints. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Japan.
Thank you, Chair. So on the agenda item 22, rehabilitation is clearly stated in the definition of universal health coverage, and it must be recognized as an essential component of quality health services. To ensure its progress, we need practical and scalable indicators. From this perspective, we welcome the draft global rehabilitation indicators as an important first step towards strengthening the integration of rehabilitation within health systems. At the same time, once baseline data are collected, member states will require more effective and efficient support to achieve the proposed targets. To avoid fragmentation, rehabilitation must be promoted coherently as an integral component of overall health service package. On the agenda item 23, Japan appreciates the Secretariat's comprehensive work and support the global framework for integrating well-being into public health, as well as the recommendation of the WHO Commission on Social Connection. In Japan, we promote healthier lifestyles, mental well-being, and stronger community ties through initiatives such as Health Japan 21 and our community-based integrated care system. We would like to be actively engaged in the connection conversations to foster social connection and build inclusive and resilient societies. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I see no other EB members seeking the call. Obviously, Egypt has a request, but they're not here. So I'll now move to non-EB member states. We also have 2 constituency statements. I'll take 3 countries, then move to 3 member states, and then move to constituency statements. So I give the floor to Turkey, followed by Morocco.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the DG and the welcome WHO's global framework on the well-being, which is aligned closely with Turkey's national health strategies. Turkey has prioritized well-being and strengthening primary health care as the foundation of the well-being governance, notably through health life centers that provides integrated preventive, promote, and PHC and support mental, physical, and social health across the all age group. Recognize that well-being requires multi-sectoral action. Turkey is committed to embedding health promotion across education, social services, urban planning, and digital health, and looks forward to continue to collaboration with WHO and member states to advance well-being-centered and sustainable health for all. On the other hand, we support the adoption of the draft strategy and the reporting of the progress in 2028 and 2030 on the agenda item 26. We believe the Secretariat's role in providing technical guidance and sharing experience will be crucial in ensuring the success of the member states. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Morocco, followed by Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Kingdom of Morocco would like to appreciate the statement made by Ethiopia. We also commit the resolution that WHA 76.6, which the Kingdom was the staunchest defenders. And with regards to the frequency of non-communicable diseases, Morocco has included rehabilitation as a major pillar of the national health system and generalized the universal health coverage. And under the insightful vision of His Majesty, the King Mohammed VI, the Ministry of Health and Social Protection, with the support of WHO, is putting the last touches to the National Strategic Plan for the rehabilitation services for the period 2026-2031. And this plan aims at including rehabilitation in all the healthcare levels, from the primary health cares towards the health groups in the land, working in parallel with strengthening the professionals' abilities and developing successful health system information systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding agenda item 26, Italy aligned itself with the statement delivered by Poland on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. In this spirit, Italy thanks the Secretariat for the draft strategy on economics of health for all and supports the request to provide an additional opportunity for the submission of written comments on the text to be taken into account before its finalization ahead of its consideration by the World Health Assembly in May 2026. This will help ensure full and constructive engagement and foster shared ownership of the strategy, thereby strengthening its legitimacy. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Given we're close to lunch, my plan actually is to take the two constituency statements back to back, and that should take us up to the lunch break. So I'm going to start with the World Heart Federation. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This statement is delivered by the World Heart Federation on behalf of World Stroke Organization, International Society on Thrombosis and Hemostasis, International Diabetes Federation, International Alliance of Patients Organizations, NCD Alliance, International Society of Nephrology, World Cancer Research Fund International. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, NCDs, including cancers, cardiovascular disease, stroke, hypertension, kidney disease, diabetes, and other circulatory conditions, remain the leading cause of death globally. The unequal distribution of NCD incidence, prevalence, and outcomes reflects deep and persistent inequities shaped by income, education, gender, geography, and exposure to harmful environments, both within and across countries, with a disproportionate impact on disadvantaged populations. Key risk factors such as air pollution, tobacco, alcohol, unhealthy diets, physical inactivity, loneliness, and social isolation are strongly influenced by social, commercial, and environmental conditions. The widespread availability, affordability, and marketing of harmful commodities contribute to poor well-being, especially in LMICs and among youth. Commercial influence and vested interests continue to delay, weaken, and impede the effective implementation of evidence-based, life-saving public health policies. Measures that protect public policy from conflicts of interest and prioritize public health over short-term profits are essential components of public health governance. To achieve population well-being, We urge Member States to take urgent, sustained action to address the social, commercial, and environmental determinants of health across the life course. We commend WHO for its focus on whole-of-government and whole-of-society approaches and on optimizing health co-benefits to promote healthy environments and reduce exposure to risk factors. We encourage WHO and Member States to strengthen alignment between the well-being framework and the upcoming WHO strategy on economics of health for all, as well as existing commitments on NCD prevention and control, UHC, action on the social and commercial determinants of health, and emergency preparedness and response efforts, with particular attention to vulnerable populations. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now turn to the International Commission on Radiological Protection. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The statement was coordinated by the International Commission on Radiation Protection, ICRP, and the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, ICNIRP. It is supported by the International Commission on Occupational Health, the International Federation for Medical and Biological Engineering, the International League of Dermatological Society, the International Organization for Medical Physics, the International Physician for the Prevention of Nuclear War, the International Society of Pediatric Oncology, the International Society of Radiology, the International Society of Radiographers and Radiological Technologists, the World Federation of Nuclear Medicine and Biology, and the World Federation for Ultrasound in Medicine and Biology. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the draft resolution on radiation and health, strengthening global protection, preparedness and response underscores the importance of an integrated and evidence-based approach to protecting patients, workers, and the public from both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation in routine and emergency situations. Radiological protection is a core public and occupational health function, helping to prevent disease, reduce exposure, strengthen emergency preparedness, and ensure that technological advances benefit society safely. As exposure pattern evolves and new technology emerge, coherent health-centered policies become increasingly essential, supported by robust health risk assessment, effective communication strategies, and harmonized protective policies that address public concern while enabling technological progress. Effective national systems are essential for managing uses of radiation technology, securing radioactive sources, ensuring robust emergency preparedness and long-term monitoring of exposure, as well as implementing clear policies of non-ionizing radiation such as UV, electromagnetic fields, and ultrasound. Member States rely on scientifically grounded international harmonized protection frameworks. ICRP and ICNIRP provide independent scientific review of health effect and grounded recommendation that inform WHO's work on support national policy development. The NSAs mentioned above stand ready to support WHO to implement this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now at the point of lunch, so I will suspend items 22, 23 and 26 to resume after the lunch break. We'll resume at 14:30 sharp. I look forward to seeing you then. Suspended now.
Thank you. 40, 30 sharp.